Okay. Well, hopefully maybe they'll follow suit. There we go. We got Sailor Moon in the house. We're still waiting. We're still waiting. We got Eagle Talon. That was one of my favorite cars, made on the Mitsubishi the Eclipse platform from the 90s. I know exactly what you're going for there, but Benson Yang, good afternoon to you as well. We're still waiting. It doesn't look like the stream has migrated everyone over. Here they come. We got Juan Padilla. We got Darwin, Pitchbull, Pirlo, Paulie D, Sharif's mom, Vast 11, Jaspreet Kaur. We got everybody, baby. We got Hogradder, Chris, Mr. Ducats, Naps, Fonzie with the Lambo trade, Crazy Lotus, Ryan. We got Papa. Oh, I like that. We got Charles and Jim Zed. It's just moving too fast, Adair. I can't read the entire thing. How are you this morning?
I am pleasant. I'm in a good mood. I'm all good. I was just saying to Sharif off camera here, the market has been wild, hard to find ways to use a Sharifism, weasel your way into trades here. But I'm trying to weasel into this Tesla long. I like this base we have formed at this 182.50. I like that wick of buyers overwhelming sellers here. I look at how long we're just kind of chilling. Also, this looks like that that candle that I forget the name of, but you have the base and then you, after a downtrend, and then, yeah, inverse hammer?
No, the hammer candle is
Oh,
good.
that is the hammer. Yeah,
that's
thank
the
you.
hammer candle.
But yeah, so I like the look of it. I'm just about 20 cents away from where I would like to dip my toe in. I initially did place not a beak wet or a toe dipper. I guess I placed the ducks at the 182.75 because you have to have the ducks there so they can wet their beaks. I'm going to use that analogy.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I got Thomas telling me in the chat here, he's like, bruh, dude, beard, not glasses. Look, man, I mean, God blessed me with bad vision, so I can't really help it. It's either contacts or glasses. I figured I'd mix it up today. Why not? All right, guys, we are talking today about gaps. We're going to finish off the topic about fair value gaps. We're talking today about fair value gaps. This is more of a fundamental analysis take. It does have some technical parts to it, technical analysis parts to it as well, but we were just going to mention it because, well, we're out of gap topics to talk about, and it was mentioned yesterday in the chat. And I think you'll get something out of the lesson today for sure. So what is this fair value gap thing, what we're talking about? I don't have a description, I don't have an image for it because it's not really relevant there, but we're going to explain about how to trade them, how to look for them, and what information they are based upon. We're talking about fair value gaps. All right, so they are a concept in financial markets that refer to the difference between the current market price that the stock or equity or instrument is trading at and the perceived fair value. Now, this perceived fair value is not something that exists in a vacuum. Typically, the perceived fair value is determined by an analyst, and they publish a report basing their fair valuation upon data. It's typically fundamental analysis, PE, cash flow, price to book, etc. All that, you know, fundamental analysis jargon, okay? Traders and investors often analyze these fair value gaps to identify potential opportunities or discrepancies in pricing. At its very simplest, guys, let me just explain what it is at its very simplest so you can follow along. Let me show the chart here, or this picture here, Ram. So you'll see here, this is an analysis of Li Auto by Morningstar equity analysts, okay? And they have assessed Li Auto's fair valuation at $39.10, yet it's trading at around $28.24. That is it. That is basically the concept right there, the gap between the current trading price and its fair value estimate. Now, there's probably going to be multiple fair value estimates depending upon the analyst in which you choose to read. So you can either do one of a number of things. You can look for which one you most like and choose to follow that person, or maybe you can take an aggregate and average them out. Take 5 fair value estimates from 5 different analysts, average them out, and then take the average price. Whatever you choose to do, this is basically it right here. The last price, the difference between the last price it's trading or the current price and the fair value estimate. So Fair value represents the estimated intrinsic worth of an asset based on fundamental factors such as earnings, dividends, growth prospects, and overall market conditions. Fair value gaps occur when there is a disparity between the current market price and the calculated fair value of an asset. So some characteristics of these fair value gaps is that they're based on fundamental analysis. So the fair value gaps are often rooted in a fundamental analysis indicators, considering factors like financial statements, economic indicators, and industry trends. There's also another characteristic of them is there's varied time horizons. Fair value gaps may exist on different time horizons, so they're fractal like everything else that we've been talking about, ranging from short-term discrepancies caused by market sentiment to more prolonged gaps reflecting the underlying shift in the asset's fundamentals. And then the last characteristic of it is it provides arbitrage opportunities, or ARBs as they're often called by Gen Zers. Traders may view fair value gaps as potential arbitrage. Arbitrage means just like you have like an opportunity to make money here. As potential arbitrage opportunities aiming to exploit the price difference between buying undervalued assets or selling overvalued ones. Adair, questions or comments before we go on?
Yeah, no, I think it's basically cool that you can use certain indicators, certain facts, just kind of see like beyond a chart perspective,
yep.
how is this trading, or how should it be trading? And I think it's cool. I like that it combines analysis and fundamental value,
Yes.
which I think is like a little bit different, and I think gives you kind of a nice rounded picture,
yeah.
a nice well-rounded look at the market. Which
and a lot of people do that. A lot of people, you know, they base their picks for stocks on fundamentals, and then they use technicals to weasel their way in.
That's true, yeah.
Get the best price, or what? A better price, not the best price. You can never really get tops and bottoms, right? All right, so some causes of fair value gaps. Let's talk about this. Market overreaction or underreaction. So investor sentiment can lead to market overreactions or underreactions, causing temporary distortions in the asset price relative to their fair values. There's also earnings reports and news. Company-specific events such as earnings reports or significant news can trigger fair value gaps by influencing market perceptions of a stock's intrinsic value. And third, the macroeconomic factors like rates or geopolitical issues, broader economic factors such as the interest rate changes or geopolitical events can impact fair value gaps across various asset classes. So basically what all we're saying here is, here are some of the reasons why the fair value estimates, if we can just go to the screen there for a sec, Ram. Here are some of the reasons why this number is different than this. So there could be any number of things. And when you read on about Li Auto here and you go ahead and you read what this analyst has to say, he's like, there's a lot of interest in this name, but the money's not going to jump in there until they see, number one, what is going to happen between the United States and China going forward, especially that we're in an election year. Number two, they want to see what happens to electric vehicle margins. As pricing pressure continues to mount in that sector, they want to be able to see, can Li Auto hold on to its 21% margins on its product? So money is staying on the sidelines. So that is a very clear reason why you have a fair value estimate of X and a current market price of Y. And I'm sorry to use Li Auto. I was reading about it yesterday, so because of their release, so I just happened to have this. And I was telling Adara, I didn't really know anything about fair value estimates till I accidentally read this report yesterday. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm going to do a fair value gap lesson tomorrow. So it was very apropos. Any questions or comments about the causes, Adara?
You know, I think it makes sense, right? Like you have a certain value, and then for whatever reason something impacts where the stock is, and that's kind of how we get the gaps there. I think it's something too I'm really excited to learn more about as well. But yeah, I think especially to the whole aspect, what I'm seeing here as well in my notes is that the whole idea of these larger institutional trades as well can really impact the price, and I think that's something I wouldn't have necessarily thought of. So it's interesting to see how there are so many different elements of the market, large and small and specific and related to the general market, that can really cause these gaps for whatever reason that we don't really think about. And the whole concept of there being fair value in the first place and how we deviate from that is, yeah, it's cool.
Awesome. All right, how to identify some of these fair value gaps. So traders use various tools to ID these fair value gaps within their analysis. So the first one, obviously, is to use fundamental analytics. Can we just keep it on the screen, Ram, if we can? Thank you. Scrutinizing financial statements, earnings reports, and other fundamental factors to estimate the fair value of the asset. Look, so this is going to basically tell you how to ID the difference, but I think it would be quite complicated for us to go in, do our own fundamental analysis, and come up with a fair value estimate. I personally would just leave that to the analysts themselves, and to get myself a report like the one that you have on your screen here about Liado, where it gives you basically a clear understanding of what the fair value estimate is, what it's based on, the rationale of the analyst. Just go ahead and use that rather than trying to come up with your own. But I'll just tell you quickly about what some of the factors are that lead you to this fair value estimate. So fundamental analysis, scrutinizing financial statements, earning reports, and other fundamental factors. The other one is comparative valuation. Compare the current market price to the commonly used valuation metrics like PE, price to earnings, price to book, which is PB, dividend yield, to identify potential value gaps, and technical indicators. Use technical indicators to assess the momentum and direction of price movements, helping to confirm or challenge the fair value assessment. So we're not going to belabor this point because it does get complicated about how to actually reach the fair value estimate, but those are the three factors that you can consider: the fundamental analysis perspective, the comparative valuation, and using technical indicators. Any questions or comments, Adara?
Yeah, I'm seeing too. I was looking at this as well. Apparently there's certain ways you can see it in the candles. So if there's, based on like the space between the wicks of certain candles, right? And then apparently things that aren't going to necessarily be fair value gaps then would, if we're just looking chart-wise as well, which is interesting to think you can kind of look at it in multiple levels, is that if they're created by significant imbalance, or if that there are larger gaps spanning multiple candles. So you want it a little bit tighter, apparently, if you're going to look at it from a charting standpoint.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I didn't even know about that. That's good. I should probably look into that as well. All right, trading strategies. How do you trade these fair value gap differences? So value investing. Adopt a value investing approach by buying undervalued assets with the expectation that their prices will eventually converge with their fair value. So for this example over here, if you had a 39.10 price target or fair value estimate by this analyst at Morningstar on Liado, yet you're trading at 28.25, the idea here, or based upon this value investing, is you'd get long waiting for that gap to fill between the current market price and what this analyst says is the fair value. Again, I wouldn't put too much stock into what one analyst had to say. I would personally rather take a bunch of different reports, take what the fair value estimate is for each report, add them together, divide by the number of reports, and then take that average and use that as my target, rather than just relying entirely on one person's analysis. The other part is contrarian trading. We're talking about trading strategies. Contrarian trading. Contrarian traders may take positions against the prevailing market sentiment, anticipating a correction in prices to align with the asset's fair value. So essentially here, if you have the market or a particular instrument trending down, but yet the fair value is a lot higher than where the current price is, you're basically taking a contrarian approach. You're saying, look, you know, the market is not interpreting this data correctly. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is bottomed, and I'm going to take the other side of that trade. Goes without saying that if you're taking a counter trend, a contrarian approach, or a contrarian trade, you have to be really focused on managing risk. So make sure that you have a technical level that you like as support, that if it breaks down below for a long or it breaks up above for a short, you get out. And be sure to stick with that, because, you know, it's a counter trend trade, and by definition, it is a little bit more dangerous. Adara, questions or comments?
Yeah, one thing I think is really interesting too is because fair value, in essence, based on what it is, it could always change as well, right? So I think that's something to keep in mind too. with regards to fair value gap. Sorry, if you're looking at it from a fundamental perspective, just thinking like, hey, like, you know what, this is what it is now, but if there's different analyst sentiment, if there's a big move in the specific stocks, for example, it'd be really interesting to look at how fair value changes after earnings or something like that when you do see a lot of different analyst sentiment. And I also think that's why it's interesting too, how, you know, like when you look at street high versus street low price targets, those are the extremes. Yeah. And so I think I remember Meta was up like 4% on the day that Mizuho raised its price target to 470, which is I now probably definitely not the street high, but at the time it was the street high. So I think it's interesting how we react to these extremes, but it's also interesting to think about what's the average and what's like the overall value analysis based on the consensus.
Fantastic. All right, guys, let's get to some current market condition right now. Apple is just about to go green. So yesterday's closing print on Apple, 186.91. We just touched 187 on the dot, exactly 187 on the dot. And here we go. Apple is now flat on the day, looking to go green. Oh my goodness. Look, guys, I have orders set up at 175 and 170, and I was almost, if you asked me what the chances of my 175 getting filled today, I would have given it like a 50 to 75% chance. That looks like it is not going to happen today, and I'm okay with that. I have a good average price on Apple. I was hoping to get a little bit more at these depressed levels. Maybe it comes in next week, who knows? But yeah, it's been a hell of a recovery from that 179.25 low that we had this morning on the IB low on AAPL. It is now trying to go green on the day, but finding resistance, surprise, surprise, at yesterday's closing price. We should all have expected that. And here we go to the downside again. So if you took that 187 short, you're already 60 pennies in the money, as now Apple is putting in a topping tail candle on my 5-minute chart here at the side. And if you don't know what a topping tail candle is, you got to go back to last week's lesson when we talk about candlestick patterns. You'll know exactly what I mean. Whoever took that 187 short, that murder short, baby, it is on its way down, possibly into that 186, as the market also topping up here, Adira, at that 17, and this ominous number here, 17,666 is the high of day on the NQ March contract. I do not make that up. And we've been wicking into that level a lot here and not being able to make any higher highs. In fact, since that pop we made at 1045, it's been a series of lower highs with some topping tail candles here. So we'll have to possibly look at how we're going to enter one of these trades here on the Mag 7 name. Obviously, we like NVIDIA, we like Meta. That goes without saying. They're both looking bull flaggish. Here's the lookout on NVIDIA. This is the 5-minute look. You get that pop up at the bell, and now we have a sideways consolidation doing the dance with that 6.5. Meta, likewise, you get that pop up initially, and then we have that kind of bull flag consolidation area. We're doing the dance with that 4 M3/4. I'm talking about 475 bucks. We're at support level, resistance level 1 on pivots here on META. How goes your look on the day? What are you looking at today?
Well, I'm actually in Tesla. I got into the Cybertruck. I liked this entry point initially because I did see, we did have that inverse hammer candle, and shout out to, or hammer candle, and shout out to, Paulo, I believe, in the chat saying, inverse hammer, you can touch this, because I really enjoyed that MC Hammer reference there. A great way to kick off a Friday. But yeah, I mean, I got into this, we kind of DCA'd, we added a little bit because I got in right above that 183 and then added right at 183. We held this really well, and then we kind of swooped down. I'm really going to be watching that 180. 250, but I do have a buy, or not a buy order, a sell order placed just above that 183, just in case we can scalp some profits out of this, because I don't have, I never take a huge amount of shares, but I have enough shares that we could, the beak would be damp if we got out of that, just above that 183 area where I'd like to be getting out. But yeah, and we're holding up pretty well here. Actually, we're not falling as hard as I was fearing we were going to fall once we broke that 183, but we held the 183 really well. I'm going to stop pontificating on this trade. Shout out to Sharif, who uses that word quite a bit. NVIDIA's still looking spicy. at that 652. I like we're just kind of topping and turning around VWAP, but I'm not going to get involved in this yet because we haven't really made a new higher high. I don't want to say head and shoulders because I don't really think head and shoulders, but I think certainly it's interesting to look at where we're kind of peaking out a little bit here, that 652.36, then we get back 652.56. So I just want to be pretty cognizant of that. It's not really moving in a way that I can range or kind of play around with at this moment. So I am going to avoid it for now until it presents itself to me. Google, also interesting. I have the 3-minute up, and I like what it's doing on the 3 minutes. Let's look at what we're doing here on that. Okay, yeah, I mean, Google 5 minutes, still kind of the same idea. Still down on the day, but really nice recovery after bottoming out of that 137.20-ish area. We see these wicks to the downside. We've got buyers overwhelming sellers. Then we start to step to the upside. If there's a decent dip, I might just take the dip and buy it at the top of the channel, just do some ranges there, because I think that would be potentially a move here. But yeah, if there's anything anyone sees moving that they want to shout or that they think is a good look, definitely let me know here. I was also looking at Snowflake earlier because holy cow, that move. We had a hard time breaking above that 210 initially, almost double topped, and then Snowflake said, nah, I'm not falling yet. Continues to go up here. We are seeing a bit of consolidation around that 213.50 area. So I'd like to see what we do from here on out. I think it could go either direction. It could just be taking a break before it powers back up, or it could just be petering to the downside from here. This one getting a price target increase from, I believe, Raymond James from 190 to 223. So nice look here for Snowflake. Not falling right now, but I do think we could potentially be moving to the downside here. Yeah, Robbie V saying Tesla looking like a short from here, really struggling. I would say that our struggles around that 183 are a little bit, they're a lot, but I'm not getting out yet. Like I said, like I really, in terms of my stop loss, like leaving with a loss take, I would not be leaving with a loss till we break below that 182.50 area. We're getting close to where I did set, it's not even a beak, whatever. It's just going to be dunking the beak at this point because I was like, I just want to get out at this point. You're right, Robbie V. I realized kind of after I got in that this could not have the movement I was hoping for. I was thinking we were going to get a pop, and we did end up being a little bit stagnant. So we're going to have to wait and see there. But yeah, mainly just Tesla trying to get out of the Cybertruck. But if anyone, of course, if anyone's seeing anything moving that's of interest, let us know. As always, we love seeing what the market's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. Just my phone was on the other side there. I have to go grab it. All right, guys. Apple tried to make a move back into 187 here, so we've got a couple of touches at 187. I just want to see how this resolves. I'm going to keep my eye on Apple here. I want to see if we do get that break of 187, go green and start trend, or we reject that level and then maybe give back a little bit of the ghost here and come into VWAP. VWAP on my chart right now is at that 183, so that's projecting a $3+ move, but that is all predicated upon us rejecting this resistance level. And if you're wondering why resistance coming in at this level, that's where we closed off yesterday before the earnings report dropped at 4:30. That is the 4 o'clock close from yesterday, but it looks really primed to go here as the future's not giving up the ghost either. The future's very much near the highs. Apple very much near the high, so I don't want to be guessing top. So I'm just going to stay clear of this trade at the moment until it decides what it wants to do. So in the meantime, we can talk about some of these small cap gappers that are moving on the day. Chief among them here, we have INBS. So I'm not sure too much about the details of this stock, except to say that it's called Intelligent Biosolutions. It is a tiny market capitalization of $7.5 million, very small. Its float also not equally as small, but 8.1 million shares for INBS. As we come up here above VWAP, remember, if we can go to the chart at $4.70, that's where VWAP is. We popped into 560. It's a little bit above 5 right now, so we'll have to wait and see whether this one can continue to go. Good look here for INBS. The other one, MINM, this one's been running for multiple days. It had a really good last couple of days, Wednesday and Thursday. Both were green. Today, it did break above yesterday's high, so it was able to get to that $8 area, but it's since given up the ghost now, and it is below VWAP, trying to hold $6. It did break the pre-market high, or did it? Hold on, no. This one made its top before the bell. So this one at 9:30 started selling off, so this one is not tradable for me. The other one, CMAX, don't have details on this as well, but it was popping off earlier, multiple halter to the upside for CareMax. This one, $30 million market cap. I don't have details about the float, sadly, but this one did pop into 1180. Now it's just a smidge above that 7.25. So you can see that Christmas tree retracement off the highs there below VWAP, not tradable for me. CMAX. The other one, CCTG. Looks like all these small cappers are retracing aggressively. CCTG had a nice day yesterday, gave up the ghost there at the bell and closed off about $3.75 in the pre-market today, got to $6.60, but it's been making in lower highs and lower lows. Untradeable for me right now as it is below VWAP, and it did not break that pre-market high that we just talked about. So the only one really that is tradable for me in small cap world right now is INBS. So we'll have to keep an eye on that to see whether it presents us with opportunities. There is another one though popping up here, KOPN. So we'll just mention that one real quick. Shout out to Nimit. I know he likes when I go over the small caps. KOPN, not a bad look here. A bit of a bigger company, $270 million market cap. The float on this bad boy, 107 million shares. So a lot bigger than some of its counterparts in small cap world today. Let's put the ticker in over here. It is, tradable for me because it is above VWAP at the moment. Let me just put in VWAP over here. It's at VWAP, I should say. $2.35 is where VWAP is, trading at 238. This one, though, is suffering from a lack of liquidity. The volume is really dropping off here ever since that 9:30 bell. Yeah, and this one may be on its way down. It's trying to hold VWAP at the moment. We'll have to see how this one does. KOPN, the other small cap capper that I'm watching, Adara.
Yeah, Copen was flying earlier today too. I kept seeing that one on the popping up on volume on Trade Ideas. Shout out to Mr. Michael to the NOS. He was talking this morning about gold and about roundy faces as well. So always a nice little reminder here as well. So people were talking about IWM in the chat. I think IWM, this one is one I've been looking at more since I started talking about it in the small cap recap as well. And I think with IWM, I did mention earlier that double bottomish area around that 192.40. I think that's still valid. And I think some people was mentioning it looks a little bit weak. I think it does look weak, but I think we are seeing a bit of a rounded bottom, a skosh. And I think one thing I would keep in mind, though, is that 193.80 has been a struggle. Every time we get there, we chop and churn for a little bit, so I'd just be cognizant of that. Just broke above this now. I might be interested in getting in along here if there's a dip opportunity. I don't know why, but I've enjoyed trading this one lately. Also, just putting it out here, I am not short Tesla, just to say that. That's where I got out of my Tesla long. I am not short Tesla. Also, now Tesla's running. I got out and I scalped out and I was all happy with myself. Now Tesla is trying to make a move, trying to make a cyber truck zoom towards that. I make it sound like a sports car. Now, yeah, oh my God, we're almost at 184 here. If you are still in this Tesla long, felicitations to you. I'm trying to make a run up towards VWAP. Really nice look here.
Apple is absolutely pumping there. 187.33. We got long 186.75. So now let's see if we can do the dance with yesterday's closing price, maintain that level. Just because you wick above it doesn't mean anything, okay? You can just absolutely tank. You can be lured into the trade. We've called this trade a specialist breakout where, they lure you in and only to take it back down, especially when there are a lot of eyes on that 187, essentially 186.89 is where we closed out yesterday. But for all intents and purposes, it is that whole dollar level at 187 that we need to contend with here. I wet my beak through the break of 187. Let's see if we can get that to the next beak wetter. The next beak wetter is sitting at that 187.15. So it's about 10 pennies away from where we are right now. But this is all predicated upon Apple holding this 187 level, maintaining its green status or whatever you want to call it. I went over to the Katina man. I'm like, Katina man, what do you think about Apple here? He's like, look, the market's continuing to go higher. I don't think Apple rejects off this level. Now, we may have some, intermediate, fluctuations between the price. We're going to have to pack our patience and see. But for me, this one is going to be, the trade is no longer valid if it breaks below this trough over here. That trough takes me all the way down into that 186.15, 186.10. It's going to have to hold above that level for me to stay interested because, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, we know that level over here at 186 is important because it did crest out there and then reject. And then when it broke that level decisively and touched 187 initially, look where it came back down to, into that 186.10 again. So it held that general level. So if it doesn't hold this level, that's going to be the end of the trade for me. But we are trying to look here for a move up. And as I see that, obviously, I see a topping tail candle come in on the future. Now we're a little bit out of the money as Apple does come back down into the 186.60. So we're about 10 pennies out of the money. But we did wet our beak for a small profit taker here. But we could absolutely get run over if this is actually a specialist breakout and we get bamboozled into a trade only to push it back down to there.
Yeah, I mean, really nice look there. I would say, I said this one earlier and I have to repeat it here, that Apple is Tim cooking a little bit here to the upside. Also, someone mentioning run as a short. So let's see if we're running up or running down here. Let me get this guy ready to go. I like this. Okay, sorry, I got really excited here. Trend line. So here's my thing. It looks a little bit bull flag or bear flagish. No, this is not a bull flag. If I were to zoom out here, you know, I've been really trying to adhere to Neil's principle, when in doubt, zoom out. And I think, you know, we have that big move down. This would be a flag pull if I've ever seen one. Then we chop and turn. I would say, yeah, if we break out of this trend, I think we could break to the downside. We do have a flattish top, but we're so down in the day, I do not see this as a flat top breakout. No way, Suri Bob. I think the trend is a little bit too flat. And I do think if we have a decisive break kind of here below that, when 1385, what am I saying? I think this could be a good breakout. And I'm actually contemplating getting involved in this myself now. Thank you to the people who are mentioning this one, because whew, what a look. I think you could measure the flag pull from a lot of places, but I'm going to measure it from that last breakout. So that'll be like that 1450 area down to 1355. You got about a 95-cent window if you are to, to believe the market masters who are writing the rules here on these breakouts, because usually they say measure the breakout from the length of the flag pull. That gives you about $1, honestly, of room. This is a nice, I might have to be running with run here. I really like this look. Thank you to the people mentioning this one in the chat. What a look here. And I do have to address one more time Stressla, which had me a little bit distressed. I did leave early, but you know what? No regrets in here. Shout out to Where the Millers. Now we're coming right back to that 183. If we bounce off 183 again, I might get back in because that 183 hold was significant. And I'm not going to mess a lot with Tesla. I'll put it that way. Yeah, Shun Moon, I just did check run for a short. I think it's a good look. And I do think that based on if we break out, I think you have about $1. Again, don't take my word for that. I'm just saying based on that, the whole idea of measuring the breakout from the flag pull, it looks like you have about $1 of room should this break out to the downside. I do think it's a bear flag and a good short. I'll just repeat that quickly here too. But yeah, I think lots of good looks here, just trying to find a way to put my foot in the door in some of these trades, because there's a lot of really interesting opportunities and things are moving with a swiftness that it's hard to catch up in the movement. How is your friend Apple?
It's okay. So let's look at NVIDIA over here, 655 high of day, but putting in a bull flag as we go. This 654 break was kind of the decisive break over here because you had multiple touches at that top only to get this big, huge green candle taking it through that 654 that we've been having trouble with. I guess you could have seen this coming because it kept putting in higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, compressing to break that top at 654. We'll have to see how far this one can get. 4% already on the day. Maybe this one touches that 660. Who knows? I mean, I wouldn't put another $5, $4 squeeze beyond the realm of possibility for NVDA. Good look here. Amazon also popping up again. This one was a bit of a tougher trade, I think, for people this morning because of how, essentially how it's trading. Look how consolidative this was. I mean, if you were trying to get long through the break of 71, you kept getting probably stopped out because it would work right back down. And it wasn't respecting any specific indicator. It was going through VWAP. It was going through the 200, the 50. It didn't really matter here. And even the pivots didn't play a part in this one, right? So Amazon, it is starting to put higher lows though, right? So it was a bit of a consolidative chop fest. Earlier this morning, especially when you compare it to some of these other Mag 7 names that were all up and to the right. This one getting going with a 171 171.54 high at the moment, trying to hold 171. We'll see what this one does the rest of the afternoon. Meta, like I've been talking about, it's been a bit consolidative at this level, this 476, 475. It's had about a $3 range. Let's say most of the price action has been taking place between 478 and 475, with obviously a 479.50 top. Couldn't really break through that 480. Guys, this is up $79.50. This was at 400 yesterday when we closed out. So what a move for Meta on the day. We'll have to see if we can eke out any more out of this bad boy. It is at that resistance level 1 on pivots, which is the teal line, the teal dotted line on my chart. Keeping an eye on that. Softy, though, kind of a bit of a similar look to Amazon in that if you tried to take the breakouts, you probably were stopped out unless you DCA'd at the bottom here. Didn't really respect VWAP either, only to say that the closing prints were a lot closer to VWAP. It did wick down though, so if you did have resting order stops below that level, you likely did get stopped out as well. So, but the best, I think, trade on Microsoft was off yesterday's closing price, that 403.75. It dipped right into there at the IB, the implied balance open, and got into the low of that 403.5. It did wick through 403.75, went going to the $0.50, but shot right back up. So if you were sitting at yesterday's closing price at a dip trade, you really rewarded today on Softy. It's been a real good look for this bad boy. And Google has been tough trading today. It's been a real bad time for Google, and especially because, well, they reported weak digital ad sales, and Meta came in with stellar digital ad sales. So a bit of a tougher look for Google, and you can kind of understand why this bad boy continued to sell off today, starting off its life at that 140.02 is where it was trading at yesterday. Wicked up, though, in the pre-market to 142, but it gave up the ghost aggressively. 136.50 the low, trying to make its way back into that 140 area. It's right there right now, 139.95. We'll have to see how Google does the rest of the day. And then obviously Tesla, Adara covering this one with great effect, 182 and a third low. It is putting in lower highs and lower lows. The short has been fantastic off VWAP. So if you've been packing your patience and trying to take short, the pops short into VWAP, you have been rewarded. It's rejected off VWAP multiple times since the opening bell. The best one here at 10:20, and then you got another opportunity at 11:30 to take this bad boy short. I have a resting order on my brokerage to get long a small amount of Tesla shares at that 180. So if it does come into that level, I'll be pleased as punch as to use it as an Adara-ism, but we'll have to wait and see. There goes NVIDIA, over 4% now, $656.34. Absolute rocket ship is NVIDIA. It's already up, Adara, $20 off the bottom. 636.90 low today. This one's absolutely pumping to the high side.
Yeah, if you're NVIDIA, you win NVIDIA. I don't have anything else. I mean, if you're NVIDIA as a long, if you're short NVIDIA, we're here for you. And you know what I mean? We're learning every day. I tried to mess around with Google earlier, just searching for a point of entry here. But that Google search was not very successful. And I will pull it up here. So I basically got in. I was noticing we were holding, this was basically just looking at the book a little bit, holding that 136.75. Not a great point of entry here. Or sorry, 85. Not my favorite point of entry. I noticed we kind of wicked below that 9 EMA, and I said, sayonara, I have to leave, and I got out of this trade. So it was a super tight moment. But I do have an IWM trade I'd like to talk about. So like I said, I've been really watching IWM as we have these this kind of trend line. I do think I liked that bounce off that 192.40. Then we curl back up here. And then I was noticing where we were holding, where we were really having this nice hold. Like I said, I'm interested in that 193.80. We got into 193.80. I was able to get the bottom of the wick. I was pretty pleased as punch. And then we shot right back up. I noticed we claimed that 194 successfully, got it around 194.15, because I always like to get out slightly below where we're going to find resistance. If this trend continues, if these higher lows, higher highs off that 192.40 area continue, I will continue to play around with IWM. Because yesterday we got a little bit IW murdered on that last trade, but I think, we learn, we grow. We don't hold grudges against stocks because they don't care about your feelings. So I don't, a new dawn, a new day, and I feel good. Shout out to Miss Nina Simone, and I guess also Michael Bublé, who covered that song as well. Also, some people mentioning, Darwin saying safety check on perma bears, please. Yeah, I mean, the perma bears might be a little bit might be a bit of a hard day for them. Ian David saying, did SE have news this morning? I was on the hunt for SE news yesterday, got an upgrade later in the day. I brought this one on the at the big desk earlier. Yeah, I got an upgrade to buy from Citigroup later yesterday afternoon. I'm seeing this around 2 p.m. on Benzinga. I'm sorry, Ian David, I'm not seeing anything else. I did a search this morning before bringing that on the news interruption. But I wish I had an answer for you. I think what I was seeing too on social media, because I always check Twitter sometimes, we were saying to see if there's any consensus, any like quick news coming in. What I was seeing is some people thinking that might be an Amazon sympathy play because of the tech space. So I think that could be something worth noting. I wish I had a better answer for you there, Ian David. Also, Nick W. Here in a super chat. Hey guys, thanks for the midday. Sharif, thanks for your thoughts on our ALGN swing. Made over 100% on my call.
Whoa.
Sold above 300, bought Meta, Amazon options at open. Think 500 is the next level for Meta soon. Let's go. Let's go to you, Nick W. Thank you very much for the super chat. And go Sharif for those calls.
Well, go him. He's the one that printed.
Go him too.
Good job out there, Nick Dub. Watching NVIDIA as this thing just absolutely starting to skyrocket, guys. Here comes 657.50. We have a 657.44 high. The Katina man in his swing account just got out of some Meta and NVIDIA. So taking some profits there at these elevated levels. Shout out to the Katina man. What happened to not selling? You're going to wet your beak, though. TFSA, which is tax-free savings account for all my American friends, baby. He's pumped about that, baby, because, well, we get to hold on to those profits without paying tax. That is, obviously, until you withdraw them, right? So as long as you're not actively... He's going to get his kids glasses with that money. Shout out to me, who's wearing my glasses today. These are from Costco.
Oh, very nice frames.
We are close to getting stopped out here on AAPL. If this breaks 185.85, that's going to be the end of the trade, and we're going to get rinsed on this Apple 187 long. Tried to DCA into this a couple times, not giving it any more room, so we'll take the L there if it continues to head south. Softy on the way up, Amazon on the way up. Meta's stagnant at the moment, but it's really all about NVIDIA at this moment over here as it continues to crush the day. 4 1/3 on the back of yesterday's headline that they are receiving orders for their Chinese GPUs that they are making specifically for export to China to try to circumvent some of the embargoes there by Biden and his boys. We'll have to wait and see what we get the rest of the day. But, you know, judging from what we're seeing right now, it looks like as if 60's coming in, 660, pardon me, is coming in. It's going to come in pretty dang soon as the future is absolutely pumping up here. Everything's moving up except Apple. Good for me.
The beak wetters will come again, but I think what's interesting too is, yeah, you're right, the very ominous level on the future is with that 666 on a Friday, but not Friday the 13th, so I guess that's something. It is Groundhog Day though, apparently. The Groundhog said early spring. And I know I was talking to Sharif earlier off camera, I was saying, how do you think they choose the Groundhog? Like, is it like an audition? Do they try out? Do they draft them? I just think that's interesting, but apparently he did see early spring, so something worth noting here. IWM, I'm still looking at this. Here, snow, I still love the look of snow here. We're not snowing in Toronto, but it's certainly snow and money if you are in a long and snow today. Holy cannoli. We got a price target increase from Raymond James. Every time I think this one might be tapping out, it keeps going. I was watching this consolidation area. I didn't want to get in yet, but then we kind of kept going up. So honestly, I really do have to take the possibility of a dip buy very seriously on this, and then just get out if there's a lower low. Also, I am still not short Tesla, although I'm considering getting short Tesla now because we just broke that 183. Like I said, I've been watching 183 like a hawk. That was the area around. I wish I got into that long, and it looks like we just failed 183 with a viciousness. That being said, while I was in it, we did get to about 182.70 and then come back up. So I want to watch a couple 183 failures before I punch short 183. The other thing too is I've said this before. One of the things that I always am very cognizant of what we're doing when we're near new high of day or new low of day. So I think too we're getting really close to that low of day, as Sharif was pointing out, about 182 thirds on Tesla. So I just really want to be cognizant of that. Just a lot, and trying to make sure I'm finding the right opportunities. I always find it a little bit hard, especially because I prefer ranges when things are moving with the viciousness that Nvidia is moving at. When Meta's up 21% in the day, you don't want to force yourself into a movement, and so I think it's important to just be patient, as Sean was talking about earlier today. Shout out to Sean, but also saying a scared trader is a deficient trader, which is one of the big Seanisms that I'm trying to live by a little bit more. Not perfect, but trying to get a little bit better at it every day, and yeah, just trying to see some improvements here. I like that IWM trade. I like the concept of the Tesla trade, and I'm really just trying to let the market tell me what he wants. Also, that run short, still kind of fascinating to me. I think this is could be a really nice bear flag breakout, but if we break above that if we break above that 14, this is not going to be a short. And I actually think, you know what, I might get into this anticipating that breakdown, because as long as we're below that 14, I'm pretty pleased as punch here.
Watching the future here at 17.7, see what this one is up to. If we reject or hold this level at 17.7, when's the last time we were up here? I think we were up here a few days ago. Let's check. Let's go to the 30-minute chart. Yeah, so how high did we get? So we got into 17.8. What time was that, though? That was around 12 o'clock. That takes us back to January 24th. We got into 17.8. We haven't been up here since the 30th, so that's not that long ago. 17.7 and a third. We are above 17.7 right now. We got into 17.704, so we'll have to watch and see whether we continue to ascend here on the future. It is really being driven more by Nvidia, more by Amazon, more by Meta and Microsoft than it is by Google, Tesla, and Apple. They are kind of giving up the ghost a little bit. Apple was strong to start the day. It looks like it's breaking down now. If it breaks below 186, 185.85, that's going to be the end of my trade. But look at Softy, kind of that inverse kind of head and shoulders. Not really, because it didn't have an what's it called, a downtrend to precede it, so that's not really relevant there, but it is possibly on its way into that 410 again with that 409.99 high. Is that 4 or 5? 5 green candles in a row here on my 5-minute chart off that 403.50 bottom earlier on the day. Softy continues to be strong. Everything except Tesla, Google, and Apple strong at the moment. Goodness gracious, Nvidia, it looks like we are going to see that 660 often, or not often, but sooner rather than later. Perhaps here if we continue to head to the high side. I've got really nothing on other than this Apple trade. Looks like I will get stopped out now as we are at that 186 level here. If it breaks 180, this is the level that I'm trying to base it off to make sure it's trying to hold this support level over here. If it doesn't, then that's going to be in the trade, and we'll have to look for something else. GCGC says NYCB, New York Community Bank. Let's have a look at the technicals on this bad boy. NYCB obviously had earnings, and the earnings didn't come in so well. You know, this was one of the banks that bought, not Silicon Valley Bank, but the other one. What was that called? Silver? I mean, anyway, one of the banks that was taken out and shot behind the barn back last March. They bought a lot of their assets, and some people were trying to blame the asset purchase as the reason that this was tanking, but one of the analysts that I follow listened to the call, and he was like, it was more their legacy assets that really were in trouble here. Anyway, it's been a big move down off that $10.50 that we were trading at before earnings. We got all the way down, I believe, into the 550s here. Yeah, that was where it troughed out, basically losing 50% of its value. And now we got to make a 100% move here in order to recoup all that. It's back up into 6 1/5. Looks real good. Now, the technical levels is going to be that 660. Look at that long consolidation here that we had between the 30th and the 1st at that 660, between 650 to 675. That should be a resistance level if we continue to ascend here off that 6 1/5. So that's what I'd be looking at for possible resistance here, this particular area. So we'll have to wait and see whether this one continues to pop up or not. But yeah, good look for it on the day, trying to recoup some of the losses. Awfully close to getting stopped out here on Apple Adair.
Yeah, what a look here on New York Community Bank Corp. I was joking, that one has a starring role in the downgrades the last 2 days after that earnings miss is a polite way of putting it, earnings massacre could be a way of putting that as well. Also, I had to laugh at John Sturtevant saying, shot behind the bar and show taking a dark turn. I mean, I would say, New York Community Bank earnings took a bit of a move back now, but trying to recover a little bit. And I think sometimes what I'm kind of realizing at a certain point, it's hard. You can't really call bottoms, but sometimes the stock, after it hasn't moved down, will make a nice little move back up. So something I'm still just trying to learn on as I continue to navigate the markets. I did get involved in this run short for the same reasons I was saying before. I want to get involved before we break down because I don't know when we're going to break down, but if we break out of that 14, I'm going to have to say sayonara. If we do see a little bit higher, we're holding pretty well. I might add a little bit because it's not a large position. Like I said, just trying to get comfortable with reloading when it's responsible to do so. And I think we're in this range. I would like to see this breakout before the midday is over. But given that this bear flag began at open, it could be in for a long little wait. But we're trying to get more patience. Shout out to Sean mentioning that here on the in the morning show. So just things to keep in mind here. Also, Kyle Burdett, 199 super chat. Thank you very much. $, 10-year, 30-year equities running together. Confused face emoji. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, I would agree it's weird because when I was on Money Talks this morning, the little segment at the big desk, I was like, what is that USD doing? I'm gonna pull up the USD on TradingView in a moment here because that move I thought was insane. Slav Paradise, Nvidia still running what in all caps? Yeah, I think you probably got a lot of people in the same boat here also floored by that Nvidia move. Nvidia took 600 after a little bit of a struggle and then really crushing it now with almost 660. Yeah, we need to talk about this daily on the USD. This candle, I've been talking, and we got a bigger move up because I think we were just shy of 104 when I was at 1050. Now, just 1 hour later, we are up at 1004. We are about to break those highs that we were making in early December, which I know, USD might not necessarily be behaving in the same way with charts as some other equities and some other assets. But look at that earlier little peak we had at August 23rd or August 25th, 2023, coming into the same area. I think this could be an interesting level for the USD, but they don't really respect levels. But I just thought that would be kind of an interesting to note here. That is my my take on that DXY. And thank you very much for your super chat, Kyle Burdett. Ron's still trying to run to the downside, mostly kind of jogging in place, or maybe it's right against Peloton. So let's look at PTON. Peloton is Pelagon. Shout out to Sean, but finding a really nice bottom. Oh, that rhymed too. But finding a really nice bottom at that 420 area, just continuing to come back to this area. I think at night, there's definitely some scalps I would assume to be had. Again, not advice, but just from my take and the way I like to trade. I think some scalps off that 420 area could be interesting, but slightly lower highs here and almost flat on the day. So it's always a little bit harder to read those movements when the stock is more or less flat. But yeah, I think that the main, oh my God, now Meta's up again. The main thing is these assets are running before you can even catch them. They don't know what they want. And also a public service announcement, I am still not short Tesla at 183.14. But I mean, Tesla's been rangy. We might get involved in that, but currently we are not.
NVIDIA breaking through 660. Wow, I can't believe this. Uninterrupted ascent now, or it looks like we're going to touch that 5% off quite soon here as we're up 4 3/4. Great move for NVIDIA today. Great move for AMD as well as AMD recovers from its earnings miss, if you want to call it that. Softy's moving, Amazon's moving. The Future is also up nicely above 17.7. We'll have to wait and see whether it can hold that level. Great long, though, on NVDA as it continues to pump up through the whole dollar level here, with the top being 660.85 right now. So looks real good. Here comes 661, it looks like, on NVIDIA as it makes a new high of day, 660.95. I'm probably just not going to keep calling this out. Well, because it just keeps printing newer highs. So great look here for some of these chips. We also have Broadcom up aggressively as well. 2 1/3% for Broadcom, AVGO at that 12.27. Brendo sending me a message not that long ago. Spotify now in focus. Spotify announcing that Joe Rogan is set to renew his podcast deal with Spotify. I looked over it to see what Spotify was doing, if it was doing anything on the chart, and here it is right now. I mean, zigzagging a little bit. You could tell the algos reacted to the Joe Rogan news, but coming right back down on that news. So nothing really to declare or nothing really to trade there at the moment. So what's that?
But we have a podcast.
Oh, we do have a podcast.
Yeah,
fantastic. So we'll have to wait and see what Spotify does. Trying to hold up at that $222 for now. It did spike up momentarily into that $224 and about a half. So nice pop up for Spotify on that news. It looks like it might be heading back up. The liquidity is a little bit soft right now on Spotify, and it's awfully spready as well. So be careful with this one. Right now, we're looking at about a 30-penny spread, but it is up 1% and change, almost 2% actually. Ooh. So good look there for spot. NVIDIA, though, looks like it's coming a little bit back off that almost 661 touch. 660.95 is the high. Coming back down now below 660. We'll have to see if this one can catch a pop and continue up. We're also coming right into 17.7 again on the future here as we touch 17.717. So now we're going to be watching to see whether we can hold 17.7 on the futures. I think it's very important that we hold this 100-point level for some of these longs on these Mag 7 names, especially if we give up the ghost here and start trailing in maybe into some support levels or that 600-point level on the future. We may have to look the other way on some of these names. All right, Apple starting to curl back a little bit. We're almost break even now on AAPL. We had to fight with this one, but it did hold that 186 level, and now it is curling back up. Now we're break even a little bit on Apple. That's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for a move back into 187. Whether or not we get a break of 187 this time around, entirely different story, or whether we get a double top and a reject, maybe even a lower high. Maybe we don't even make it back to 187. We're going to have to see. But some momentary strength coming in there on Apple. Let's not get too excited about that. Looks like, you know, we're still very much on the border with getting stopped out. We were very close to getting stopped out here. We were like pennies away from the stop here on AAPL. What else is strong? Let's keep looking. The yields are obviously popping. We don't trade yields here, but the 10-year is up over 5%. The 2-year is almost 5% as well, 4.82 on the 2-year. So lots of strength today coming in from the Treasury yields. The 30-year is up 3% as well. The dollar is also up half a percentage point here against the loonie, which is the Canadian dollar, guys. Oil is down aggressively, and I couldn't be happier. I came in this morning, and the gas stations were all looking a little bit better. I'm going to tell you the truth here because their prices were a little bit down. So oil down 2.33%. Not much else to really talk about. What is everybody talking about in the chat? We're about to get the real deal with Neil quite soon. So make sure you get your pen and your paper handy and get ready to get your learn on because Neil's going to be dropping some hot lines awfully soon. Yeah, rejecting 660 is NVIDIA. Still holding out on Apple, looking for what we're going to do here on the future, undecided at the moment.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of that in the market. Google popping up, question mark? It's not a question mark, it is popping up. I was just like, huh. Google getting a nice move into that 140.60 area. Looks like my long entry was just bad because I think this one is continuing to pop off. And I do think that, like I said, I like that bounce off of that 137.20, springing up with a viciousness. Nice move up for Google, recovering, but still down on the day. Also, I think Tesla is mad at me on the position board. And I say that because I actually did take a long in Tesla. I liked it. That's why I got in. But I also thought maybe you know the position board would be like, oh hey. But I think the Tesla position board is feeling a little bit of aggressla towards me. You know what I mean? And maybe it's a little bit distressla. But it's really obsessed with me taking that 183.14 short, which I did not take. But I do think I did take this little teeny long though. I'm happy with this. It was a super scalpy. I like that 183 hold. Got out about 183.19, 183.15, that area. Just kind of again, just shorting or not shorting, going long ranges. And I do like that double bottom. I think if I had felt a little bit more pop off that 183 might have stayed longer, but I took a really small position. Just trying to get into the swing of things, getting into positions. Because like I said, I always find it a little bit harder to do when the market is having a Friday party as it is today. Thank gosh it's Friday is saying the market. It's all going to TGIFs, it's going to Chili's. It's definitely having a party over here to ring in the weekend. Holy cow, Meta dip by here that I missed because we bounced off that 9 EMA. I actually, you know what? I have to watch Meta at that 9 EMA because Meta seems to be really trampolining off the 9 EMA here because whoop. I like this move. I have to say, I like this move. Also, Skip 8 saying on average the market appreciates by 2.78% after an early spring prediction via Harvard Business. I did not know that.
Interesting.
So whatever groundhog was drafted for this decision may have given us a nice boost in the market. Thank you very much for the Skip 8. I love fun facts like that. I know Sharif and I are both kind of fun fact people.
But which groundhog though? Because there's so many, right? Like there's so many of these events. There's probably a specific one they follow. But yeah, interesting. Look, man, data is data. So make of it what you will. I mean, obviously, I don't know how much real effect the groundhog has. Maybe it has something to do with people's moods. If there's a early spring, people are more inclined to buy. I have no idea. But that is an interesting data point there. Thank you for sharing. Nothing too small to share on this show, baby. All right, guys, we are up at highs on Softy. So Softy getting a bit of a move here after being dormant the majority of the morning. We're coming into resistance level 1 on pivots at that 410 and a third. That was the institutional level spike there into 411 at 8 a.m. So don't put too much weight into that candle. Really, the IB high here was at that 930 pop, and I'd say came into about 409.50. We're above that right now. So a bullish look here on Mr. Softy as it is up 1 2/3% on the day. Ram. I only shop when I'm depressed. Yeah, right, Ram. You're always shopping, aren't you?
She likes being in not the chart, but the chat.
Ah, yes. Yeah. I like how when she chimes in.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah, she always has funny things to say. Guys, I can't believe what I'm seeing here on NVIDIA. $661.30 HOD right now on NVDA. Continues to pump to the high side. Unbelievable strength in NVIDIA today. I like SMCI had taken a break though. So I was looking at SMCI to see if it was moving in sympathy with NVIDIA, and it's not. It's down 1.5% on light volume. So it's more of an NVIDIA and AMD day right now. Intel also taking the day off possibly here. Owing to that news that its Ohio foundry is going to take a little bit of a longer time to build. They blamed it on chip demand. Neil and I talking about it this morning. He thinks, it's a way for them to strong arm the government into giving them more money. I tend to agree with him a little bit there. It's all politics and business in this world. So we'll have to see what Intel is able to do from here on out in the rest of Q1 of this year. But yeah, down 2% today. But like I mentioned, AVGO. It
does go.
It does. It is going. It is going for sure. Up 2.25% on the day today. So that's another sympathy name. Broadcom is what we're talking about, and that tends to move in sympathy with NVIDIA. But Neil is ready for the real deal with Neil, so we're going to send it to him. Ram doesn't like when I send it quickly.
Welcome. We got the real deal today, and it's going to be, what do you do? How do you avoid getting your stop run by the algos? Whether you've made the bottom wick when you're long, whether you've made the top wick when you're short, everybody's been there at some point where it happens to you. And you feel like, oh, how could it be possible? Why me? What am I supposed to do? I had everything perfect, but the gods conspired against me, or the market conspired against me. So first off, what are we even talking about here? Not every single trade where you say, I'm going long in front of X, I'm going short in front of Y, is going to work out perfectly. So I'll just give you an example of what it looks like when the most obvious level holds, because this is Rivian here at the morning. 15 is the bottom. It never breaches 15. That low is 1501. That's 15 even. The opening range top is 1534. It never breaches the top. So you're trading inside of the range. Hey, no problem. That's really easy. You're long in front of 15. You set a stop, and it works for you because it never actually breaks a level. But the market's not that simple. The reality about the way trading goes is oftentimes at the more obvious levels, you're going to see a little bit of shenanigans. And what I mean by that is you'll find turns at those same levels right after everybody's stop, or a lot of stops get run. So I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like, because it kind of happened to me today. And if you look at the same sort of idea here in reverse, here's Intel. In the morning, it initially flushes. You see it consolidate. The pre-market low turns into a resistance level right just above 42.40. So as it's coming back in to retest that, looks like a pretty good short there. But what happens when it runs that obvious stop or breaks that obvious stop? That's the top of the move. And then it pulls back in and goes back. Now, if you're trying like I am in a situation like that to short that level to get to VWAP, nice little scalp trade, well, there's almost no way for you to win if your stop is at that level. So how do you combat when you have a good level or an area where a stock is likely to turn and in fact does turn, but you aren't able to capture it? So there's two things that you can do. One of which I said live in the morning as this was, or right after it happened. And that is to risk it down. So the first way you can get around this in this situation is to think about, well, if I like the position underneath that level, instead of having to stop right at that high, let me risk half, give it a little bit more room above. So if you're risking, in this case, 10 cents, be willing to risk 20 cents on half the shares. And then if it breaks that high and comes back down, save that other half for an entry on the way back down with the tight stop after it's broken the level. That way, if it works right away, you have something on board. If it runs that stop, you're not adding to it until it proves it's a false breakout. Then you're with the same short you would have had anyways in the first place, but it's run some stops. Now, what's the advantage of that? If those stops are run, what's happening here? Some people that are short are out, meaning on the way back to VWAP, less people on the bid having to cover, so it'll fall a little bit easier. The other thing that's happened is anybody looking for that continuation of the bounce long is trapped long, which is again good for a short-term short. So one of the things you can do on initial position, take half, give a little bit more room. That way your risk on the initial position is exactly what it would have been if you take a full position. Do not get the other half unless it does the false break of your key level without taking out your stop. So that's one thing you can do. The other, of course, and sort of obvious way to deal with this is to not take anything until it gives you the false break. That can be trickier because one thing about the false breakout, it gets back underneath that price very, very quickly. And when that happens, you can end up missing the position. I do favor having something on board. That way, if you cannot actually get into position on the way back through, you've already taken it. So it's all about the mechanics of how you want to deal with that kind of position. Taking half, I think, is a pretty reasonable way to do it. Of course, waiting for the false break is equally reasonable. There's no perfect way to do it on a stock like that. Now, I want to give you something else here because it's not necessarily, always going to be the most clean every single time, but there is something that you should consider for these wick tops and where running stops can be a little bit obvious. And that is when you are long or when you're going short in front of, or going long in front of overhead resistance or going short in front of support. So I'm going to give an example here where you might look for a place where a lot of people would stop out, like a 17 level, and then find a reason why you could be anticipating stops running and then a bit of a turn. Like, why would somebody want to run stops, i.e. trigger a bunch of people, take positions short above that trigger level, and then have it come back in? One of the most obvious places for that is if that stop level is not the real resistance level. And an example like Snapchat today, that is the case. $17 feels like a reasonably good stop level. The first time, it pulls back a little bit. The second time it breaks and then stops out in front of this line. Well, what the heck? Why do you have a line in the middle of nowhere? Did you know it was going to be the top? Not really. But I'll go to a different time frame, show you a daily chart up here on Snapchat where you might start to get the idea. And then you go to the 15-minute and pull it back. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute. This has been breaking and failing above 17. So this is a situation where you can anticipate that stops might run at that even dollar level because you've got overhead resistance. Now, in this case, that's where you don't think about that half and half notion. Why even have short at 97, 98, 99? In that particular case, you should wait for it to break the 17. Let everyone be trying to go long as it's breaking the high on the week, while you're waiting for it to test this level up here in the teens. When it doesn't get through that, there's your false break, there's your stops being run on the even, and that is your retracement entry. So you trapped longs above 17, you've got people that were shorting it and underneath 17 stopped out, and you have an entry off a resistance level that held 2 weeks ago. When in doubt, zoom out. It's always your friend to know where there has been support and resistance on the higher time frame. What is the big money doing? You want to avoid those rinse jobs. And the time when you're going to see them happen the most violently, almost without question, is going to be the open. This is the thing about trading at 9:30. It is a huge, and I mean absolutely huge, liquidity event. So I'm going to give you the most extreme example you're going to be able to find of it for Meta. There's on earnings, they were up double digits. It was an absolute blowout for them. But at the open, there was the bamboozlement underneath the pre-market lows. You saw it make a fresh low, then you saw it go $30 to the upside. Well, how do you capture that move? Now, obviously, this is a red candle at the open. That is a lot of selling on high volume for $10. But once again, what do you see when it gets to either the pre-market low here, 56, which it runs underneath twice, or specifically at 55? Pre-market lows, even dollar levels like 455, those are obvious levels to transact at. If you are a day trader, it is imperative that if you are trading an in-play name like Meta, you cannot be in a situation where if I'm taking this at the open, I'm just going to stop out if it breaks 55 or 56. You've got to have some other risk parameter because the even dollar stop at 9:30 is going to get run. So if you don't want to get run at the open by the algos, you have to have some other area that you're going to get out. In this particular case, it could just be saying size down, risk $3 or $4 instead of 1 or 2. That's an option. Or when the pre-market low sits here at 54, instead of saying, okay, 55, 56, it has to break the next level underneath that pre-market bottom. Got to break the next even dollar down. The other way to go about it is like what I was talking about with allowing stops to run. Maybe you don't have to be on the front end of this trade. Maybe be willing not to catch that dip to try to catch it on the way back up. Because once this runs the pre-market lows, do you see a red candle? Because I know I don't see a red candle after that. It runs those pre-market lows. Even if you get it on the way back through, you've got an entry breaking back above. You can see that it wicked that double bottom twice, that early double bottom twice. That sets you an out there at 54. You could be long at 56, 57, or 58. A couple of dollars worth of risk on a stock that was gapped up $60. So it's a reasonable risk to reward. But the willingness to sit it out until it's run those stops at the bottom and snatch it back on the way up is a phrase I like to use all the time because a great trader once told it to me years and years ago. Be willing to miss the trade to make the trade. Nobody cares if you got a great entry if you couldn't hold it and it stopped you out. It would be more important to have taken some position somewhere that you could have held for the move than to have gotten the best price and got rinsed at the bottom. At the end of the day, it only matters whether you're able to profit from it. And sometimes that means allowing the stops to get run, having a plan of action to get it on the way back through. That's especially important on earnings plays, especially important at the open, especially important when there's flash news. So hopefully you can avoid the algos running your stops and find a way to stay in those trades or enter them when everyone else just got bamboozled. That's the real deal. And let's make sure we don't have the algos take our money every single day. Profit from them. It's a heck of a lot better.
Neil, insightful and very informative as always. Make sure to check out The Real Deal with Neil every day at noon. On how to trade. Thank you again, Neil. All right, guys, today we are talking about fair value gaps. If we can put the topics back on, Ram, if you get an opportunity, please and thank you. Now, fair value gaps, very interesting topic, not fully technically based, and by technically based, I mean based on technical analysis. It's a bit of a hybrid between technical analysis and fundamental analysis, okay? And so we're gonna cover that. Just one second, let me have a look at my AAPL trade. Okay, all right, whatever. We're wetting our beak here on some profits on Apple, but it's very, very tough to get through these tops here. I got a couple of, you can see red triangles as we're getting some profits here, but this top is awfully hard to get through, especially as the market did dip below 17.7. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. All right, what are we talking about? In its simplest form, fair value gaps is basically the difference between what an analyst or a group of analysts believe is the fair value of the company, and they usually articulate that in a share price versus what it's currently trading at. Case in point, this Li Auto one that we did right now, Li Auto trading at 28.25, but this analyst feels that it's worth about $39.10 a share. So the gap, about an $11 gap between the last trading price and the fair value, and that is what they're referring to, the gap there between the last price and the fair value price. So what does this have to do with us, and how do we trade it? So basically what we're looking for here is, can we figure out a strategy to get long against basically the market conditions right now and try to fill the gap between the last price and the fair value? That's all we're doing. So let's talk a little bit, number one, about the definition. So fair value represents the estimated intrinsic worth of an asset based on fundamental factors such as earnings, dividends growth, and overall market conditions. Fair value gaps occur when there is a disparity between the current market price and the calculated fair value of an asset. Again, case in point, this Li Auto thing that we have over here, where the fair value is $39.10, the last price $28.25. That was accurate as of, I believe, January 19th. I think it's a little bit above or below that now. So what are the characteristics of fair value gaps? Well, they're based in fundamental analysis. So fair value gaps are often rooted in the fundamental analysis aspect of things, considering factors like financial statements, economic indicators, and industry trends. And there are also varied time horizons for these fair value gaps. So fair value gaps, or we'll call them FVGs. Yeah, FVGs. FVGs may exist on different time horizons, ranging from short-term discrepancies like intraday caused by market sentiment to more prolonged gaps reflecting underlying shifts in the asset's fundamentals. And third and finally, one of the other characteristic of it is that it presents arbitrage opportunities, okay? So traders may view fair value gaps as potential arb opportunities, aiming to exploit the pricing differences by buying undervalued assets or selling overvalued ones. So this number over here could be flipped. Like the last price could be $39.10 and the fair value could be $28.25, in which case you'd be looking to short, okay? Some of the causes of fair value gaps are market overreaction or underreaction. So investor sentiment can lead to market overreactions or underreactions, causing temporary distortions in an asset price relative to their fair value estimates. Okay? The earnings report and news also are some of the causes. So company-specific events such as earnings reports or significant news catalysts can trigger fair value gaps by influencing market perceptions of a stock's intrinsic worth. You know, case in point, yesterday, say Li Auto came in with a headline that its margins were compressing from 21% maybe down to 17 or 18, despite the fact that they were going to deliver more vehicles. Well, then that would cause a reassessment of this analyst's report of what the fair value estimate is, because he has to take into consideration contracting margins, okay? And thirdly and finally, macroeconomic factors such as the broader economic environment interest rate changes, or geopolitical events. These can all impact fair value gaps across various asset classes. Here's a perfect case in point. Saying nothing changes about Li Auto's margins. Nothing changes about their deliveries. But the European Union comes in and says, no, you don't. We're going to protect our manufacturers. So any Chinese electric vehicles being imported from China into the European Union going to get slapped with a 10% tariff. Well, that's nothing that Li Auto has done, nothing that XPeng has done, nothing that NIO has done, but it's more geopolitical, owing obviously to more protectionist policies, and that obviously can factor in the fair value estimate. Any questions or comments, Adara?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of how good of an example this is with Li Auto, especially because it is one of those ones that's definitely going to be more sensitive to those geopolitical pressures, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is what's cool. Like, I've noticed these, in whatever direction that these Chinese ADRs or specifically EVs move, they will all move together. The EV, unless there's a specific catalyst, but even then there's a lot of sympathy.
Always, yeah.
So I think it's a really good example that your fair value can be impacted by, like, let's say Li can be impacted by something BYD does.
Yes.
Or probably more directly related, like XPeng or NIO.
Sure.
So I just think that's a really good example there. And I think also, too, the whole concept of fair value really reminds me of the idea of the whole ethos or essence of the BRK investing, right? The whole idea of buying a good company at a fair price rather than buying a fair company at a good price.
I love that.
And so I just wanted to bring that back as well, because I think
Berkshire.
fair value is, there's a lot of, I guess, reason for this in the market.
And I want to build on your point. You just said BYD could do something that affects Li. Well, we know what Tesla's been doing. They've been dropping prices, and they've been really compressing their own margins because they know their competitors don't have nearly as good as margins, so they can take the hit, but their competitors can't. And so what Tesla does could absolutely influence what Li Auto, or the perception of what the fair value estimate for Li Auto is, right?
I like that.
Because of, obviously, the margin issue there. Thank you for bringing up that point. Excellent point as always. All right, guys, how to identify some of these fair value gaps. So traders use various tools to ID fair value gaps within their analysis. The first and the foremost is to conduct a fundamental analysis. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, try not to rely on your own analysis. I personally would look to see what analysts are saying is the fair value of that specific company. And I would not personally rely on what one analyst has to say. I would look to see what maybe 5 or 7 or 10 different analysts have to say about a particular name, and then perhaps take the aggregate of whatever the fair value estimate is there and base my assessment on that. But some of the tools you can use to identify fair value, if you want to go at it alone, is number 1, fundamental analysis. Number 2, comparative valuation, where you do a comparison of the PE, price to book, dividend yield, with respect to some of its competitors to see what the fair value is. And last but not least, using technical indicators, such as well, in this case, you're using technical indicators, to assess the momentum and the direction of price movements. You can use things like RSI and MACD, or even price chart analysis, to help confirm or challenge the fair value assessment, the current fair value assessment. Comments or questions, Adair?
Yeah, no, I think too, like we were saying, like don't look at like necessarily the high or the low price, because that can move the market on the day, but it's not going to necessarily impact the inherent value of the stock. So like I'm going to use the same example. Mizuho, now this price target seems like small potatoes, but Mizuho did give Meta a $470 price target recently, and it was the street high at the time, and then Meta swoops to the upside, and then the next day it does normal Meta things. Although, right, I mean, normal Meta things might have to change after today's move, but basically what I'm trying to say is,
I gotcha.
Like take everything. The balance of the evidence, I would say, right? And I think that's where fair value comes in, and why I think it's a really interesting way of, in addition to technical analysis, balancing the market and kind of feeling it out and letting it shake and shimmy. I like it.
Excellent. Harry Lou asks, Sharif, when you refer to fair value as you're referring to price targets or the traditional definition of fair value, all I'm mentioning here, Harry, is this particular data point. This is a fair value estimate, and this is released by the analyst who conduct a report on a particular equity name. Now, it's not just equities that they do assessments for, but in this case it is. So all we're looking at is what the fair value estimate is versus what the current market price or the last trading price is. I'm not gonna, try to trick you into telling you that I'm smart enough to actually come up with my own fair value estimate. I'm likely to rely on those of someone much more educated in the field. but I just wouldn't rely on one person's. I'm going to rely on multiple and try to take the aggregate. That's all I'm referring to, fair value estimate. And you can see that reflected here on Li Auto in the analyst report. So some trading strategies to capitalize on fair value gaps is value investing. So you can adopt a value investing approach by buying undervalued assets with the expectation, obviously, that their prices will eventually converge with the fair values or the fair value estimates here. So if you were basically to take Li Auto long at 28.5, what you're looking for is a gap fill into that $40, $39 area. That's essentially the trading strategy here, is to be a value investor, to look for undervalued assets and to ride them up. That's what my buddy Alfred likes to pride himself in. Warren Buffett and, may he rest in peace, Charlie Munger, they were all value investors as well. And another trading strategy is a contrarian trading approach. So contrarian traders may take the opposite positions of the prevailing market sentiment, anticipating a correction in prices to align with the asset's fair value. So if the market was looking possibly negatively on EVs in general, again, maybe because of margin compression or too much competition filling in the field, you could say, well, no, Li Auto is going to be one of these outliers. I'm taking a market contrarian opinion. I'm going to look to get long, despite the fact that the market is looking negatively at some of these EV names to fill the fair value. So those are some of the trading strategies you can employ. It is more for swing trading, more for longer term holds than it is something for a day trader to use on a day-in-day basis. But it is good to know what the fair value is always versus what the current price is, so you can understand what analysts are thinking versus what the overall market is thinking. I think that definitely helps. All right, back to some trading here. Apple into 175. Again, there we go. We get the fill to the top side. Let's see now if we can run into 187 again. This trade was pissing me off to no end about an hour ago, and now that I'm break even on it and a little bit better, I'm a little bit happier. To be quite honest with you, I was a little annoyed a little while ago, but we'll see what this one can get. At least I can just break even on the trade and not get rinsed on it, because I did give a little bit up yesterday, my personal account, obviously, with Apple coming down. So you hate to see the personal account get rinsed, and then the next day your day trading gets rinsed as well. So tough always as a day trader. There we go with another fill on AAPL up into hopefully that 187 level. We'll set up beak wetters possibly now on the other side of 187, 187.33, the HOD Adara.
Nice, congrats on that. Wonderful look there. Yeah, I know Sharif was laughing maniacally when he got that first fill. So, or that first, not the first beat, but the most recent of the new era of these beak wetters. So pleased as punch for him. Also pleased as punch that the position board and I are getting closer to being besties with Tesla. I will add though, that is a better point of entry than I actually have on the Tesla short. That is telling me I have 183.08, and you know what?
Something, Adara.
Oh, I mean, I'd be happy, but I'd be pleased as punch. But the issue is,
somebody's printing. How many Katina men hit?
5.
George $5 in the money, says the Katina Man. He is long MSFT. If you are following along with Katina Man, make sure to keep your eye on the chat, because he often puts his positions there. The Katina Man is in a print factory. Shout out to the Katina Man. We just wet our beak on the other side of 187 Adara. Please this punch.
Yeah, please this punch for you guys. I love when Sean's doing the button smashing there. Also check out his Twitter. Lots of fun stuff there. Lots of cool little tweets there. And also check out the podcast on the weekends. They're going to be talking about some stuff. Oh, you're being sarcastic. That took me way too long.
He's going to kill me. He's going to throw me out of the building. He's going to throw me out of the building.
Party this weekend. It's a podcast party, baby.
The Katina Man has not let me live that down since I said that to him. Anyway, shout out to the Katina Man. Love them. Go ahead.
The podcast is really fun. I really enjoy watching it. Like I said, I watch podcasts while doing my makeup. It's how I get, into market mode. And that podcast is really good. And oh my gosh, Tesla, why are you pumping? Tesla pumping a little bit here. Pleases punch for people in the longs, but a little bit sad. I was really just trying to get this short off 183. We came, a couple cents away from my point of entry because this was a super scalpy move. Also, I am not in at 183.08. I wish I was. They weirdly DCA'd the point that I got out of my long when the position board originally decided I was short. So I actually got in at 182.99. I wish I got in where the position board decided I got in. The position board's just not impressed well with Tesla today because my other position's accurate. I have to talk about this run move. I did get a bit of a B-quetter here when we came to the end of that range. And you know what? If we get back around my point of entry or slightly higher, I might add a little bit to this run here because I still think we could break to the downside. I got involved in this. Shout out to the people. I think Shun Moon was one of them. I think some others maybe as well, mentioning run as a potential short. And I mean, I think this bear flag certainly a possibility. But even the way I trade, I'm comfortable just getting in and out of this on the, as we bounce like little marbles around this this range here. So I'm really comfortable with that. I am not comfortable with Tesla at all. If we have decisive breakout of this 183.50, I'm going to get out. But given how much of a struggle we've had with 183.50 lately, we're going to wait and see here. Really small position. Just trying to, practice here. And also, if it made the position board less upset with Tesla, that one didn't really work, then we're all going to be happy. Because people will be like, oh, in the Tesla short. I'm like, I'm not in the Tesla short. Now I am in the Tesla short. I wish that was my entry in the Tesla short because it would be a better entry. But alas, good times all around. Great times in this market. Trying to learn a little bit every day. IWM still rangy. Really sad I did not get back in on that when I wanted to because I wasn't fully sure about what we were doing there. And then I got involved in Tesla, and then I had to attend to Tesla's needs because she's very demanding.
Bruh, are you looking at this NVIDIA trade? Are you looking at NVIDIA?
This
is insane, guys. We were talking about 660 Ram chart. 660 was the level we were looking at. Now we've gotten to that ominous 666 level, baby. We're about 21 pennies away from that. $665.79 is the HOD on NVDA. And this is the trade that, everybody thought they could have had, but nobody really took. Look at this. I mean, we definitely did this dance here at that 655 earlier on with that 655 top. The giveaway, though, was the higher lows compressing to that flat top breakout, and you got in spades. So if you got long 655, you've been rewarded with an $11 winner on NVIDIA. No, did not report earnings yesterday. What a rocket ship NVIDIA has been on the day. I think somebody was saying to short NVIDIA earlier in the chat, and I just shook my head. I didn't say anything to them, though, but I'm shaking my head at you right now. You know who you are. But anyway, what a move up on NVDA, 666. Keep your eye on that ominous number as we're awfully close to that level right now. As I say that, though, Meta continues to make even higher highs. Let's go to META. This was the monster winner from the aftermarket. Guys, Meta is up almost 23%. It is up 22.5%, 22.33% right now on the day. 483 high. We were at $400 yesterday. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we see 500 on Monday. I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. And we should definitely all be ready for that. Have trades set up for maybe a 500 touch, whether you're looking to take it short or what you're going to do, but we could definitely, yeah, absolutely. Well, we were at 400 yesterday, my man. So by Monday, we could definitely get 500. Yeah, that's what I said. I said Monday. As I talk about Meta, let me talk about Apple. We did get a second rejection now at that 187 level, and it's coming back into 186.5. We're long 186, just south of a third. If this comes into my level, I'm going to have decisions to make because my stop is below that 186 level, below this trough over here. And so if it comes back in, I think I'm just going to cut this trade. I don't want it to go against me. I had to nurse this trade for the first hour of the show. And so I don't want to go through that again. So we'll have to wait and see what this does. Does it get a bounce back up, or are we going to come back into my entry? I see somebody celebrating on my left. Her name is Adara. What do you got?
Her name is Adara, and she got out of the Tesla short. Sorry, I got really excited there. Ignore the position board just for Tesla. The run thing is still valid. But yeah, so I got in. I was getting really nervous here. We made that pop up, but I said, you know what? Watch that 183.50 Adara. And I guess for a short, the opposite of the panic sell would be the panic buy. I didn't want to panic buy here because I was like, you know what? Every time we get there, the sellers are like, nah, So I got out everything right when we got right below that 183. So more or less flat on the first part, but I did add when I saw that nice failure of that 183.50. I apologize for interrupting your Apple celebrations
you're
there.
more than welcome,
Congrats to you.
You're up.
I just, I'm like literally short of breath here. That was a very fun little short, and I think I'm really proud of myself for not getting out the second we got above that 183.50, because like I said, I wanted to see, can we hold it? And I do agree, Pitchbull saying it's a little bit of a rounded bottom here. It could be a bit of a smiley face. It could be. I just think in terms of like, trying to play the range, I'm happy with what it was doing here. Run is maybe giving me a run for my money out of this trade soon. I will say I'm a little bit nervous here because of this. We're getting close to that 14. If we keep rejecting here, I'm going to maybe add a little bit to this position and then continue to kind of dump parts of it out at the bottom of the range. This is a strategy I tried last week as well on AXP, when AXP had his earnings. Basically, like I said, just trying to incorporate elements that are a little bit more patient in tandem with my scalping to kind of come up with a more effective strategy as I continue to learn to trade. Thank you so much, Cling Daddy. Way to go. That's trading. Plan a trade, then trade your plan. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I definitely stuck to the plan there by waiting at the Tesla 183.40-ish area. Zion Lala. Can I get a what went long on NVIDIA, Meta, and Amazon today? Amazing Friday. I guess like amazing and Amazon there. Congrats to you. Thank you so much to everybody for in the chat support. It's been a great Friday. Nick W saying, why not wait for the flat bottom break? I mean, I was trying to trade the range, but I do agree with you. I think it could flat bottom break, but also.
Is that Sunrun?
That is Sunrun.
What a disaster solar has been I'd say over a year. Anyway, look at this. Did you see this?
No.
Ram's like, you guys keep talking about this 666 level on NVIDIA. She's like, I've lived 666. Look what she bought yesterday. She bought, I think, Doritos, barbecue chips there. What is that, Ram? Something meal and Doritos chips. And she ended up paying a cool $6.66 Canadian, of course, right? And she's giving it the middle finger.
I was going to say, look at the finger she's using.
Are you flipping off the...
I was like, can I address that? But I think I'm happy you did because I wanted to.
Yeah, Ram was, hey, it's Ram. Ram flips the bird. Look at what Neil wrote in the chat. It's hilarious. Shout out to Ram and her Doritos chips. And one thing you guys don't know about Ram is that she has a little snacks corner in that little corner where the production team is. And it's filled with bags of Doritos, chocolate, you name it. And, as a person who loves food, I often dream about making a little appearance at that corner and taking it all home. Nice. But, yeah, that's neither here nor there. Adara, we are pumping here on the future as we have cleared 17.7 with some vigor. And I saw Dan the Man Emmons. Dan the Man Emmons was in the chat. He was telling me he's going to go short here for an exploratory short. And I said, Dan, what are you looking at? I haven't seen a decisive wick dance from the south side of 17.7 to show us kind of that we're going to reject. And it looks like as if we, the wick dance came through again this time, wicking into 17.7, but from the top side, not the south side. And it ended up running about another 56 points, probably owing to the strength of Meta, the strength of Softy, the strength of Amazon. Obviously, it goes without saying here, the strength of NVDA, who is very much near days highs right now. Nick Dubb wants me to look at Race. Obviously, Race was in the news yesterday with the signing of Lewis Hamilton from Mercedes-Benz, and that was something that shook a lot of people. Brendo got shook. A bunch of, I know Ian, shout out to Baba. He was putting that on his Instagram yesterday. He was pleased as punch that they signed. Anyway, do you know that Ferrari's market cap now is well higher than Ford's? So Ferrari's market cap, Adara, a cool $73 billion for Ferrari. What is the market cap of Ford, you ask? You didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
I like that.
$48 billion. How many cars does Ferrari sell a year? Okay. And GM, let's look at what GM's market cap, 44, almost 45 billion. So Ferrari, wow, Ferrari absolutely, just moving past them in terms of market cap. We're looking at $73 billion market cap here on Race. Now, let's have a look at the technicals on Race. And if you're wondering what the ticker is for Ferrari, it's a little on the nose. It's Race. So yesterday they closed off after the big news with respect to Lewis Hamilton, that 390 level. We're a little bit below it, I believe 89 and a half, 389 and change, in and around that level. We sadly haven't broken through that level today. Forget about this candle over here. That's the institutional print at 8 a.m. that got into 395, but it's been kind of like a bit of a reversion trade today. Let's see the breakout. Let's use some fibs here. Why not? Where are my fib heads at? All right, let's use the fibs over here to the top. Where are we on the retracement? So it looks like we were retracing into that 2/3 level and holding here 2/3 on the fib from yesterday's breakout price to the top. We're above 375 right now. Where could we find resistance if we continue to pump up here? Let's go ahead and say that 380 is definitely going to be a resistance level. Number one, it's the high of day today, the technical high of day after the break, after the open, excuse me. That 380 and a half is the high of day. And then we also have this consolidation range from yesterday, midday, between early morning to midday, where the bottom end of the range was that 380 level. So not only is the closing print around there, but yesterday's, there is price action yesterday to support a rejection of that 380 level. So we'll keep watching to see if we move up here on Race. It is down 3.5% right now after that big move up yesterday. Yeah, we'll see. Now, I'm watching as AAPL rejects 187 again for the second time, and it is coming awfully close to my entry. If it comes close to my entry, that's it. I mean, if it comes into my entry, I'm just going to cut it. I've already printed on it, and I'm happy after, having to nurse this one, the beginning of the morning show, or the beginning of the How to Trade show. So I'll get out of this one if it comes into my entry about 6 pennies right now, Adair.
You nurse it into health. That's, go Apple. And yeah, I mean, run. I might have to run out of this trade. I'm a little curmudgeonly about run right now. We're getting close to that 14. I did reload because we held that 190. 113.94-ish area pretty well. Like, I'm not getting out until I see decisive 14 break, because I think, I like this one because we did have that bear flag-ish look. But it's getting a skosh dicey here, but not dicey enough for me to leave just yet, because, as Kling Daddy said, shout out to Kling Daddy in the chat, shout out to everybody in the chat just for being awesome. But I know Kling Daddy was saying, like having a plan and sticking to the plan, and that's really what I've been trying to do today. And speaking of which, I am still watching our pal Stressla and what it's doing around 183, which right now is not much. But, also, I'm really happy to say the position board is no longer Possessla by Tesla. Oddly enough, all I had to do was add to run, and then Tesla was like, all right, I'm not supposed to be here, which is pretty funny, because while I was in the trade, it did not know that. But yeah, shout out to the position board, shout out to Fabian and Ramin, shout out to, I'm in a really good mood, guys, shout out to everybody. I feel like this market has just been teaching me a lot this week, and I think today especially just trying to find opportunities when so many things are at all-time highs or highs on the day. Also, NVIDIA decided it did not want to be, speaking of Possessla, NVIDIA was scared of that 666. Oh my gosh, we ran away. Now we're at that 660, we're below 664. I want to watch it around the 663.20 area. That might sound a little bit arbitrary, but look at this candle. This looks like a cross here. It's a skosh of a doge. It's not exactly a doge, but it's getting near a doge. I also think NVIDIA hugging VWAP is interesting, because that area also happens to coincide around VWAP. If we have a bounce here, I'm not going to say I'm not going to dip my toe in. I won't say I will, but I won't say I won't. I'm going to be open to opportunities. I think this could be a nice bounce here. We are getting very close to that point of entry. Meta, though, not bouncing right now. Meta just going into this 9 EMA here, much in the same area. It also was hugging that 9 EMA here. So I think I said VWAP earlier. I meant 9 EMA on this. Yeah, we're not near VWAP. I apologize for that. I don't talk about the 9 EMA as much, which is why I got that wrong there.
Adira, are you noticing what's happening here?
The NQ.
Guys, we just absolutely dropped almost 100 points in three 1-minute candles. We're tanking right now. Brendo, something's happening. I don't know what it is. I don't see anything on my blotter, but something clearly is happening here. We are on our way down on the future. We just gave almost 100 points on the NQ in a matter of 2 minutes. So I'm looking on my blotter to see, number one, do we have any anything on the economic calendar here we need to concern ourselves with? And if we don't, I'm going to be looking for some catalysts. Okay, so there's nothing that came out between 10 to 1. So there's a gap between 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. There's nothing coming out. I don't see anything here specific. Are there any Fed speakers? No, I don't think there are any Fed speakers. Now we are past the blackout period, so there could be, but no, I'm not seeing anything. I'm going to look on my news blotter. I don't know if there's anything specific. Let me have a look over here. I'm not seeing anything, guys, but what a move down there. That was on the futures, kind of unexpected there. And you sell euphoria. That's it. Yeah, clearly. I mean, I have no idea what the hell just happened there, Dan, but clearly something happened. Big move down on Softy, on Amazon, I mean, Meta just dropped $4. And,
oh my God.
Yeah, in 2 1-minute candles. So, and 2 5-minute candles, pardon me. We are still heading down, guys. We still haven't found the bottom of this move down right now. I mean, I don't know. It could be geopolitical related. I see some people in the chat mentioning that. Let me have a look at some other stuff here. On the side, I don't see anything yet. I'm not sure. I don't see anything yet right now geopolitically related. So we're going to have to see exactly what causes this. Or maybe it was just a quick, maybe it's just normal taking profits or over exuberance. I have no idea. We're going to have to look exactly and see what happens here. I'm very happy that I got out of this Apple trade when I did, though, because, well, look at that Huadunk. I let it come in to my entry, and that was not going to. I was not going to give it any more than that, and it's already dropped $1 from where I got out. Woo. So please test punch. Do we get a bounce here? Well, let's have a look. Are there any technical levels here that could justify a bounce? Well, let's have a look at the chart. So we do have a bit of a top here that we got between, say, 1040 and 11 when we were wicking into that 17.6 2/3. We rejected, then eventually took it. If you want to call this resistance, does this area now flip as support? We'll have to say. The Katina is long what? The Katina man is long Meta now, guys. So let's see exactly what's going to happen. The Katina man has taken Meta long at these levels. So if you're following along, against 480. So a 480 break, he's out. But he just took that 480 long. And let's see if we can get now a pop on META. A lot of strength on Meta. It's the strongest of the Mag 7, no question about it. Up over 22% on the day, now 21 3/4. Keep your eye on some of these Mag 7 names and keep your eye on the future to see if we continue to trend down or what we get here. But yeah, big move down here on the futures. And I have nothing to account for that. We'll keep an eye on headlines Adair.
Yeah, congrats on that Apple out. That's lovely. And I think Apple dropping $1 in a couple minutes is like pretty rare for it from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that one moves a little bit differently than your Teslas or your NVIDIAs.
Different.
It's distinctly different. Shout out to Obi for killing it yesterday on the show. He also had a really great Ferrari pun yesterday. Ferrari's racing, and I remember putting in the chat, literally going and like, hey, nice job, Obi. Also, yeah, I mean, I was trying to talk myself into an NVIDIA long, but I shouldn't have to talk myself into a trade. I only was interested because I thought we were holding that 662, but we're struggling with it a little bit. I want to see a little bit more evidence before I dip my toe into that water, or before I dip my chip in that dip. Shout out to Obi as well for the chips with the dip, because that was a great line that I obviously enjoyed. Tesla fell with a viciousness after that move down, but it recovered weirdly at this 182.40, making a nice pop back up. I'm going to watch that thing at this 9 EMA, which happens to coincide with 183, because every trade I've made with Tesla pretty much today has been around that 183 in either direction. I find it to be a key level for Tesla today for whatever reason, and so I'm not going to be playing around with that level. I would like to be playing with that level, if you're trading in that level. So that's what the look is here on these sim trades here today as I learn, and we're trying to grow. That'd be the nice goal. Also, IWM, I don't know why I've been getting really into trading this one lately, but I find it to be a move in an interesting way. The VWAP bounces here have been nice. Once, twice. I almost got involved in this one. I was kicking myself for not getting involved in this one. We could be bouncing again. And you know what? I would love to join that trampoline, should it bounce. I don't want to make any assumptions about how this one's moving. I want to wait for a little bit more confluence, a little bit more confirmation. But I think that, you know, we fell with a swiftness, then we came back up with a swiftness. I think this could be an interesting little look here for these, little, actually pun not intended, but this one, they are small caps, so it could be a nice little move here. Waiting to see what happens, waiting to see how it's all shaking here. Runs still moving down. I don't really have much to report here. And I was joking, I had a trade earlier, I think this week or last week, that I was saying was the world's most boring trade. I don't think runs that. At least we have a beak wetter, but it's certainly it's chopping and churning. I'm just going to keep taking out parts of it when we get to that bottom of that trend line, and then if we decisively break below, we're gonna be cooking. Hopefully, we're gonna be Tim cooking. Shout out to Apple. Freddie the Friendly Guy asking about a head and shoulder on Meta. Oh. Let me see. Oh, what time frame, Freddie the Friendly Guy? I'm not seeing it on the 5. I'll check on the 3. Not really seeing it on the 3. On the 1, I see what you mean about how there's like a peak, and then we're kind of, you know, a little bit of a trough out. I don't want to say head and shoulder till I have more confirmation of that, though. Yeah, see, I'm on the 5-minute here, Freddie, and I think I see what you mean. Like, we could be forming a head and shoulder, but I'm not really sure what the shoulder would be either. I will say to you, though, I like that 478.40 area. 479 is a key area because, look, we kind of hit that twice. And then I would say that was area of resistance twice, so I think that is interesting. And we're coming kind of into that area now, that 479, high 478 area. So I would be cognizant of what we do at that level, but I don't want to diagnose a head and shoulders until it proves itself to be a head and shoulders. But I see what you mean. Could be reversal. I would be a little bit patient with this one. Thank you, though, as always, for asking about these. Also, there was a super chat that I forgot to address earlier. Willis Addison, I think this is right when the dump was coming. $2 super chat, very apt. Dump it, move down, pray emoji, money sack, money sack, money sack. That's 3 money sacks. Spy puts, 493.70. Congrats to you, Willis Addison. I know you're always in here with your shorts. And I mean, congrats to you. Good day to wear shorts. These markets are nice and hot. So good day for these little shorts here to come out of walking. If you took it off that dump, in general, though, we are up on the day. So I want to add a caveat to my little pun there. Generally, we are up on the day here. But yeah, I mean, really fun day trading. The markets are giving you lots to chat about, let me tell you.
Yeah. Technically, the high on the day now. You want to see it on NVIDIA? Here it is, ladies and gents. There it is. It is for real. This is not me making it up. High of day on NVIDIA, 666. It's the real deal.
With Neil?
I mean, I don't know, bro. This is crazy. This was obviously, like, you're telling me that this is not pre-planned, like the algo didn't actually push this down at that level. I don't believe it. I think it was definitely pre-planned. 600, yeah, the gates of hell. I love that animation. Geez, that's not a good number there, but yeah, whatever. I don't care if, anyway, I have nothing to say about that other than, wow. Yeah. But yeah, good look there on NVDA, 666 high. Apple continuing to come back down into that 185 level. Here's the thing, though. Could we find support here on Apple on the way down? Now, it had trouble with the pivots earlier. It was bouncing into pivots and rejected. It wasn't really a specific level. So I'll have to wait and see. Maybe this acts as support. You're not going to see me put a resting order down there. I'll have to watch it come into that level, show me that it'll curl back up, and then we'll get involved. But a good-looking double top right now, that's for sure on Apple. And you had the confirmation break of the neckline over here at that 186 break. If you were looking for confirmation for the double top, this could be a nice move down, possibly into pivot, possibly into VWAP here on Apple. Maybe we should be looking at the short now on Apple because we've given up the ghost now twice at that 187 level. We broke down, we made a newer low, right? Because this was the low off which we were working, that trough, that 186 hold, and we gave up the ghost there aggressively. So unless there's going to be bamboozlement here and we're going to pump to the high side for whatever reason, this could be an interesting short on Apple, possibly for like $1.50 to come into that 184 level where pivot is, or even lower into 183.90 where VWAP is. So we're going to have to really consider here the short on AAPL. I'm going to do it for about half the size I typically take on Apple. We're going to take this short, and then we're going to get out if it breaks 186. So I'm going to give it a little bit above 186. And as I see that, I see hammer candles coming in on the future. That could be trouble. I'm going to send it to you so I can put my stops.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get involved in Tesla again because we did have that nice move up, but guess where we petered out here? 183.40, that same area I've been gabbing about all day. I tried to get in at 183.45, so I might have put my point of entry a skosh too early, but this rejection here is too good for me to pass up. Like I said, trying to be a bit more decisive within reason, not when I got into AMD long when we were down 3% in the day. Not that kind of decisive, a decisive that makes sense and has reason behind it and levels behind it. And to me, I think this is a pretty nice look. If we break decisively out of that range, like if I see a decisive 183.60 break, 183.80, I'm going to have to say sayonara. There we go. We got filled. Tesla's still running up, so we're going to be a little patient with this guy, not trying to get out too early, and then just planning my exit for slightly above that 183 because we are scalping in this house. As per always, and I think too, like we were talking, you're a momentum trader. I'm a little bit scalpier, and I think part of it too is like you have to trade to what your personality is. Like I know you've said like you have a harder time when it's a bit choppier in the markets, and I have a harder time when
it's trendy.
Oh, that's true too.
Sorry, when it's consolidative. I don't mind like when it's trending to the high side or the low side. It's just consolidation kills me, like yesterday.
Yeah, right. So I think, I feel like that's kind of the thing for me. Tesla getting into VWAP though, so I might have to get out of Tesla. I want to wait and see what we do here. Yeah,
You good?
Yeah, I think we're good here. I'm just kind of watching and waiting and perusing here. Nvidia and Meta both kind of starting to curl a little bit up here, just a skosh. Nvidia hanging out around that 9 EMA I was chatting about. I still don't know what Run's doing. We're gonna run with it for now. We haven't broken above that 14. Yeah, and Tesla's still failing here, so I have no reason to panic just yet. This is the same kind of area where we wicked above and then failed. I'm going to be super cognizant of it, but I'm not going to try to get out. I'm not trying to panic buy, which I guess is going to be panic sell, but if you're in a short, that's what I'm calling that. Also still looking at IWM, but not too much to report here. Just really trying to look at stuff, look at levels, find points of entry that make sense for me and my style of trading. I like that we're kind of, recovered around the same area. If we have a decisive VWAP bounce, I think I might have to bounce into IWM. What are you looking at? Oh, Apple.
Yeah,
Apple
short. Waiting for another. We got one beak wetter. We're waiting for that other one here to come in on the cross of 20. We're going to have to pack our patience. But while I pack my patience, let me tell you about this new small cap gapper that just popped up on my chart. ATRA. ATRA is the ticker. It is up nicely here, 73. Oh, at the high, it was a lot more than that, 73%. Let's put in the ticker ATRA. Shout out to all my small cap traders out there. This one got going earlier on, but I don't know why it didn't show up on my board until just right now. I have to interrupt. So, wow, there we go on Apple all the way down. Let's wet our beak here at 10s if we can get those. That'd be fantastic. We're printing on that short. Happy I took that. But ATRA, what is this one? $140 million market cap. It is a biotherapeutics company. The float on it, 96 million shares, so a bit larger there. Let's find out what the short float is on it. Almost 10% short. Atra Biotherapeutics float is about 10% short, so this one could squeeze to the high side here. Just make sure that you are managing risk on this bad boy, okay? Because it is, you can see, started out its life today below a buck. It was around 82, 83 pennies. We popped up into $1.58. We're retracing now into $1.33. We'll have to see if we can possibly hold up here. It's been uninterrupted to the high side, saving except for these two 5-minute candles here coming in red. VWAP on my chart on this bad boy is at $1.25, a little bit below $1.25. So maybe keep your eye on that VWAP bounce if it does materialize. ATRA though looking awfully good right now, running midday, started its life out sub $1 on the day. Back to AAPL here as we're doing the dance here in the low 20s to mid-teens, looking to bounce, sadly for me, because I'm taking this bad boy short. We're going to have to watch out to see what Apple does here. Looking at the overall market, the market is back above 17.7. So that wick all the way down, took us down to 17.7, but now we're right back above there again, baby. So we'll have to watch out and see what the market does here, because it could absolutely affect Apple and what Apple is doing there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting move. And, I have to say, I'm a little, I feel like Atera Biotherapeutics trying to caught my style a little bit. Close, but no cigar.
Okay.
Just name-wise, you know what I mean? But no, I'm just making a dumb joke there. Tesla broke above VWAP, and I exited the Cybertruck. I kicked my way out of that Cybertruck there. Not too much of a loss here. But like things come in and you have to say sayonara. Run coming back into this area here. We're tightening this range a little bit. I got into this seeing a bull flag or bear flag, sorry. We'll see if this bear flag comes to fruition here. IWM popping up VWAP, we're gonna have to look at that. But let's also talk about Jeeb 1000, I like the name there, asking about Peloton. I have $4 calls expiring today, trying to find an exit, would love some input. I think we had that flat bottom break here that was interesting. I was talking about that 420 area level. We broke that decisively, moved down to that 412. Let me look at the daily here on, yeah, the daily's a little bit hard just because we felt so decisively below a low. I think if we could get, decisive back into that 440, that would be interesting. But I think right now it looks like if we can get a move off this chop and turn, that'd be interesting. Right now, though, I would say we're pretty decisively to the downside here off of this move after earnings. I think this is kind of a weak look here on this Peloton. But yeah, I think if you can get out I think that'd be kind of an interesting look. I don't know as much about options as I should, admittedly. I'm going to be really honest there. And then my chart just died. So I'm gonna I'll ask Sharif about that as well. But yeah, I think one thing with Peloton is that flat bottom break interesting, that consolidation interesting. We'll have to see if it's gearing up for another kind of bear flag situation. And I say that because we did have that big move down, chop and churn, falling below. So I mean, with that consolidation here, this could be another bear flag, but I don't want to diagnose anything that hasn't come into fruition yet. I would say though, yeah, I think pay attention to these levels and see what we're doing here. Tesla, though, yeah, people saying Tesla making a move. Yeah, Tesla making a move above VWAP here. 3 successful trades here, so I'm not going to cry over spilt Cybertruck. That didn't really work, but so yeah, but I think a really interesting look here. And yeah, run still moving. Also, so I do have a question for you, Sharif, if you don't mind.
Right, go for
so
it.
Someone asking about Peloton and $4 calls. I don't know as options as much. I guess they have $4 calls expiring. I was just I was just looking at technicals here on this break, but I don't know much about in terms of levels of exits for options. So
Oh, well, yeah, I don't trade options either.
That's true. Yeah, I
but,
just wanted to know a
let's
little
have
bit more
a look.
than me.
Well, I mean, really, it has to do whether the price is going to come into that level. I think that's probably what they're asking. So let's have a look at the technicals. Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's pull in Peloton.
Thank you so much.
Earnings winner or loser from yesterday, excuse me, reported in the aftermarket, I believe, the day prior, and then the continuation happened in the pre-market yesterday. So do we hold $4? So what do they have?
I'm trying to make sure. Yeah, they have $4 calls expiring today. Yeah.
They buy or sell calls? Who was it?
It was Jeeb 1000.
Yeah, if you could just tag me, Jeeb. Let me know, did you buy or sell calls and what your situation is, because we're awfully close here. We have a 410 low. That's just on the day. Let's have now a look. I thought you were passing me something. Let's have a look here at what the support level is on the 4 hour. So we haven't been below 4 on any of these troughs. That goes all the way back to September. So let's go to the daily here. We've never been at $4, it doesn't look like, at least not for quite some time. Let's go to the weekly. No, and it's never broken $4. It's never been at $4 before, even over here. Like, look at all these lows, 430, 428, 430. Yeah, so we're at all-time lows right now on Peloton. So the price action that we're currently at, the $4.10, is the all-time low on Peloton. Yeah, I don't know. I think $4 probably either. I mean, from owing to what it did before, it held that $4 area. It was at 4 1/3, 4 1/4, and every single time it held. So I'm not sure exactly what you have. You haven't tagged me yet, so.
Oh, they said they bought the $4 calls yesterday after the big 20% drop.
So yeah, they needed to hold above 4.
Okay.
In other words, yeah. Well, we'll see. Past history has shown that it's held up above 4, but it's never been this low either. It's never been to $4.10. So hard for me to know. I mean, it's kind of like the opposite of a blue sky setup. It's kind of like a red ground setup because you're.
I like that.
Right. It's kind of the opposite way of that. Guys, we are pumping back up here on the future, man. We reclaimed 17.7 awfully quickly, as with the swiftness, as Adira would say. And look at what NVIDIA did. My goodness, right back up. Holds 660 to a T. So anybody waiting at that hold dollar level, oh boy, were you rewarded. And you're $4 in the money now as NVIDIA breaking through 664 again, possibly on its way to the ominous 666 HOD that it's at right now. So we'll see whether NVIDIA can make another run here at 666s. Have you looked at Tesla?
Oh yeah, that's why I got out of that short. Like
Tesla's almost $3 off that low, awfully close, 182 exactly low. Here we go into 185. Tesla getting all sorts of buying for whatever reason. Guys, this is a difficult day to trade. I gotta tell you, I'm just talking for myself here, but when you have kind of irrational market action like this, like it's tough. It's tough. It's for a trend trader. I'm just talking again for myself. Maybe people are printing there in the chat. Shout out to you guys. But I'm finding today to be a bit of a difficult day. And like the most obvious trades are the ones that I didn't take, and that peeves me. Like the NVIDIA one that was showing a lot of strength. The Meta one, Softy, you could say it was a bit of a bamboozler because it got moving late in the day after this consolidative action over here. But we'll see. We'll see. Great move up for Tesla. There goes 185. And it looks like we may get that 666 touch again here on NVIDIA as we dance with 664. Mahmoud, difficult every day. Yeah, I know. But, you know, certain days more difficult than others. There's a joke around the trading floor that we say here to each other. And it's kind of just, you know, tongue in cheek. We say trading's easy, right? And we always say that to one another. So obviously trading, not easy. But yeah. Kling Daddy, 100% agree. It's been challenging, although very proud of keeping my losses small enough to make a profit. That is what it's all about. A lot of people think it's about printing on trading. I think a lot of 50% of trading, or even more, I don't want to quantify it, but a lot of it is trying to keep your losses small and your winners bigger. Shout out to you. Good for you for being able to exercise the discipline to do that. It's not easy. Hertzgramber, TLT down. That is the 20-year ETF. Let's have a look at TLT. Let's bring in the trusty side chart over here. We were talking about yields this morning, Brendo and I, at the big desk, because once we got that job number, boy, oh boy, did we see that big move down on, or sorry, the big move up on yields. Yields absolutely spiked. The 10-year is up 5%, Katina, man. And the 2-year is up 4.86, so yields absolutely spiked to the high side. And there you go. This is what I think hit it, Katina, man. What's going on? Meta? On what?
4, 5.
Oh my God.
It's a sticky no winner with Microsoft.
Microsoft, you were freaking me out there. The Katina man is $6 in the money on Softy, having gotten in long 406, and you guys know where that price is right now.
We have an Amazon trade we're still in.
And he's still holding Amazon. Hit it. He's all about the remixes today. $3 in the money on AMZN as he took that 169.50. Am I right? 169.50 long. 169.52. Big deal. Up into, now we're high a day, 172.50. The Katina man printing there, baby, on AMZN and MSFT. Good trade there, Katina man. Shout out to you as always. Back to the TLT. Looks like it's basing out here at 95.69, though, Hertz Scrambler. And it did break below the 31st, the consolidation low that it had there. Now, where do we find some support? Well, it looks like right here, because that's exactly where the high was on January the 30th, the second last day of the month. And we're basing out at that high. So previous level of resistance acting as support right now on TLT. Not one that we often trade around here, though, Adara.
Yeah, TLT, yeah, interesting look there on TLT. Just so much to look at, so much going on here. Yeah, Tesla, I mean, that move up, all I had to say was Model Y is it doing this? Like, it was such a random move. We were also bouncing off of that previous area of support, which I thought was, or yeah, I guess resistance area, because that's why I got it on the short there, because we were holding that resistance and then we failed that resistance. I'm just trying to add to this IWM here. I don't love my point of entry. I was trying to get in earlier, but then got a little bit of an issue there with there's a word for it. Oh my gosh, Adara. The spread was giving me a little bit of problems, so I couldn't get in where I wanted to. I still like this point of entry though, and I was waiting to see how we bounced off of that area around VWAP, and we did bounce with the swiftness. I want to try to plan at least a partial exit here at that 194, but I want to add to this position a skosh if I can get a better cost basis. That was always the plan off the VWAP bounce, but this spread is just making it really hard to find a nice little point of entry here. We've got about, we're seeing at least on the top and bottom line here about a 30 plus, more or less 30-cent spread here, so what a move. Also, Why Brothers United bringing it back to the lessons, so we'll shout out to here. If it's a gap up, it's likely to subsequently drop down to fill the gap. Also, in the case of a gap down, any significant price action as the gap is being filled. I mean, I think no two gaps are alike, I guess would be my take on that.
Remember when we talked about common gaps yesterday, right? So common gaps, typically how you identify them is they're filled quite quickly, 4 or 5 trading days, maybe even less after actually gapping. And that's how you're able to know to differentiate it, obviously, from an initiation gap, from a continuation or exhaustion. The other thing to keep in mind is volume. The volume on the common gap will be much lower. In addition, the amount that it gapped up for will also be smaller than initiation or not an exhaustion gap, obviously, because you need an initiation one to get an exhaustion. But from continuation, from initiation, the common gaps will have lower volume, lower gap price. They'll usually get filled quite quickly after manifesting. So keep your eye on those unique characteristics. Adira, I think we are 10 minutes past the hour. Is it time to do the lesson?
Yeah, my apologies there. Let's get into this lesson. So we're going to be talking about fair value gaps. And I have an example. I know Sharif was talking about Li Auto. I'm trying to find some examples here on something else, but I think what's really interesting too.
Do you want me to get you another one? I have all those. Like you know the one I sent you on Li Auto?
Yeah, I can use Li Auto.
I can send you another one if you'd like. I can send you Apple. Would you like?
Sure, let's do Apple. Thank you.
Sure, give me a second.
After earnings, thank you. I really appreciate that. But yeah, so basically we're talking about our fair value gaps. And I want to talk a little bit too. We're going to talk about fair value investing, but I also want to talk a little bit about trading them with, because there's also can be gaps in the candles as well. So we're going to have a little bit of a back and forth here, which I think will certainly be interesting. But I think one thing too that you have to remember with fair value and investing is basically the kind of the demand and the supply. How are investors feeling about it? And that can really impact fair value there. Thank you so much. Let's look at Apple's fair value here. I'm just trying to find a way to.
It's at the top left.
Oh, there. Okay. Thank you, Sean. Sean saying you're not measuring apples to apples.
Alley right there,
Much appreciated there. Yeah. Sean killing it with that. So let's look at, and also with the trades, of course. So Apple's saying that we're fair value estimate here we're seeing is 160, but its price is actually 186. So according to this, it's trading above its fair value, which is certainly interesting and something to keep an eye on. But basically, some things that investors can do are compare their fair value estimate with the market value if they want to decide to buy or sell. And the fair value is usually the price that the investor will pay to generate their desired growth and their rate of return. So this is something interesting too. Like, let's say the price of a share, the fair value of a share, sorry, is 100. The market price is 95. The investor can consider the stock undervalued and buy the stock. But if the market price is 120 and the fair value is 100, they'll probably forgo it entirely. They'll be like, the market value is not aligning. It's not simpatico. I'm going to have to say au revoir. So I think that's something interesting to keep in mind as well. And I think, there's a lot of different ways to kind of look at that, but basically it's the whole idea of looking at the sum of all of the analyst takes. Someone earlier was saying what analyst specifically, and I think we're both kind of saying it really is about the whole sum of what you're seeing, right? So not going off of just one analyst call, going off of the general vibe of it. I'm going to again use, although this example is completely moot now, the example of that Mizuho analyst calling 470 on Meta. Meta's price shot up like a rocket because at the time that was the highest analyst rating or analyst price target, sorry, for that stock. But then it went back down the next day, right? Because these one-off moves are not going to really move the price. They're not going to really have much of an impact as much as the overall take of, hey, what are the analysts thinking? What is the vibe? And I think that's why, too, we get so many different analyst take, and that can really impact fair value after stuff like earnings, right? Because our intrinsic value of the company, or how we feel the company is valued, is ultimately changing, which I think is interesting as well, right? Because we know based on the earnings, hey, this is what actually it did. This is what, we're a little bit closer. We can kind of reevaluate what we're considering there. So I certainly think that's of note. Also, I like, too, that it includes overvalued and undervalued. So, like, we've been overvalued for Apple for quite a bit. And based on this fair value, we've been overvalued on Apple more than we've been undervalued on Apple, which is interesting and not really something you'd expect. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And again, though, like, we should really mention that is one analyst perspective. And what's going on? Short Meta Katina Man, $2 in the money, baby. So if you're following along with the Katina Man, he is now short Meta, flipping there from the long into the short, and he's printing on that, and he's pounding the desk because he's happy. But just to say Adara there, if we could show Adara's screen, please.
I'll just go back
and bring that bad boy back down.
Apologize.
So that fair value estimate, I mean, we shouldn't put too much stock into what one analyst has to say. Like perhaps maybe get 5 or 6, and then we can make we can take the average of however many analysts were able to pull up their fair value estimate and base it on that, right? So I think that would probably be a bit more sound of a principle. And if we have our own ability to do fundamental analysis, we can do that. And we gave you basically some of the ways how to ID. So check.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really about kind of looking at the whole and not just one or two takes. And of course, the analysts are going to all come at things from different perspectives, right? So certain analysts are going to be more bearish on certain stocks. Some analysts are going to be more bullish in certain stocks. Certain analysts have different metrics that they use when they're analyzing the stocks, right? So I think that's something really important to keep in mind. There are no two analyst approaches are going to necessarily be alike, and the fair value is the sum of all of its parts. So I just wanted to say that there as well. And also too, I'll talk a little bit about the fair value gaps in the candles as well and in trading. And so basically sometimes that's when there's a gap forming when the buying and the selling forces are out of balance. And sometimes you can see that in the candles. And so these can tell you, as Sharif was mentioning as well, if there's a big news event that can really change market sentiment. And then you have to look at, is this something that's impacting every single stock? Is it something that's impacting the market? Or is it just something that's impacting this stock in particularly, right? So another example too is macroeconomic factors with Li Auto. And I really appreciate Sharif bringing up that Li Auto example, because like Li Auto will probably be more reactive to the overall Chinese stocks. That could impact his fair value. That could impact its gaps. That could impact how it is trading. So I think that's something really important to note too. Major economic data impacting the whole market. Today, the market a little bit shaken up, shaken loose by the impacts of those non-farm payrolls numbers, which were eye-popping, right? So if it moves on that, that's going to impact everything. That was insane.
You know what, though? I feel like there is an aspect of this that was seasonal, because a lot of seasonal workers are hired in that December quarter, but the analysts should account for that.
I agree.
Right? So, I mean, that's what I was reading too. I mean, we always have unseasonable, or not unseasonably, I'm not talking about weather here.
I like
but,
that.
Stronger jobs growth in the December, the holiday period, because of people hiring temporary workers. We'll see if that's actually the case or not.
Yeah, well, definitely. It really depends. And I think you're right. And I think what's also interesting was that upward revision of the previous number to 333,000. I think that also something could be amiss, something could be in the water. We'll have to see there. But the point is, yeah, like it's just another example of overall market sentiments that you have to keep an eye on with regards to what could or could not be impacting these stocks. Is it specific to them? Is it specific to their earnings? Or is it a move or a fair value gap happening in general? Also, fair value gaps can occur if there's a large institutional trade, which is something interesting as well. And then also one thing I wanted to, I'm just going to zoom in here. This is a little article here showing examples of fair value gaps on the chart.
Where are we?
I guess how do ID? I've just been kind of talking. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, I think one thing too with these is you can look at the candle. So you're going to be identified on the chart by looking for a large candle with neighboring candles having the upper and the lower wicks that don't overlap the fully overlap the large candle, right? So we see we're wicking up into it, and then we're wicking down into it, and then that space is going to be the fair value gap. So the gap in between those wicks and the candle, according to this chart, which I think is interesting.
Interesting.
But not every gap is going to be a fair value gap, and so not a fair value gap if it's going to be created by a significant buy-sell imbalance. It might not be if it's created by if there are larger gaps spanning multiple candles. So you're really looking for this 3 candlestick pattern according to this chart. And I know some people also were mentioning, specifically fair value gaps versus like fair value for investing. But yeah, I think it's a little bit, I don't know, I just thought a little bit of food for thought there. But in terms of trading strategies, I know, Sharif was mentioning you could be a little bit counter trend with this, right? So if you want to see if there's like a bit of a move there, then you might want to be like, oh, based on this fair value, we could be going down, and then you go short. So I think, yeah, looking at the fair value, and like that example too that I was reading earlier, talking about earlier, if you buy a stock at 95 and you know the fair value is 100, you might want to buy it because it's undervalued. But if it's at 120 and you're buying it at 95, it might be a little bit like heebie-jeebie there. And I mean, it's really interesting to think about too with Apple. Perhaps sometimes these moves down are just because the market's adjusting or the fair value. I know we had earnings, but also it's interesting to think about the idea that if you pay attention to this, which thank you, Sharif, for sending me this, and I'm putting out this, it just shows that Apple's been overvalued for quite some time. So I think, Lee value was, Lee value was looking a little undervalued. So yeah, I think really interesting take there. And I think really counter trend trading can be important there, and really within reason, right? As long as you have your risk balance, but just keeping an eye on what the fair value is and maybe incorporating that into your price action.
Okay, so did we talk about the value investing aspect of it?
I think I touched on that. Oh yeah, I mean I can touch on that more too. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. So essentially, what we're talking about here when we're talking about value investing is basically looking at what the fundamentals of the company are supposed to be worth. Basically, trying to get in and see what something is undervalued and then writing back in. That's what Warren Buffett does. That's what Charlie Munger did, and that's what value investors do. They're looking for balance sheets that reflect a better fair value, a better PE or not PE, but a better future projections for their revenues versus what the market is pricing them in at. So that whole value investing aspect of it really comes into the whole fair value gap analysis. And then the contrarian trading, though, we really have to be careful here with risk management when we do contrarian trading, because by definition, what you're doing is you're taking a counter market trend and basically, you're saying, I know better than the market. The market is not pricing this asset correctly, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it long, or I'm going to take it south, depending on whether it's a long or a short. In that particular case, you have to have key stop losses at technical levels. So in order to do that, you have to do chart analysis as well. So that's where the technical analysis part comes in. When you are doing the fair value gap assessment, technicals play a key role, because if you're going to take that counter trend trade, you have to make sure that you don't get run over. The market doesn't care what you think it's worth. It doesn't care what the analyst or multiple analysts thinks it's worth. It's where the big money's getting in or getting out, and you're going to have to make sure that you're alive to that issue. So shout out to, thanks for that, Adara.
Yeah, thank you for
adding that part there. A lot of bamboozling trades. Was able to get into a quick NVIDIA trade here for a quick beak wetter, but there we go right back down again. So we're holding that 660 level again. We didn't break through it, but we did put in a higher low on NVIDIA, even though it looked like it was going to put another higher high here, possible double top at 664. We'll have to wait and see if it gives up the ghost at 660. If it does, I think this could be an interesting possible retracement down. I think this would be a counter trend trade though, so you'd have to be real careful here. And the thing is, the difference between the breakdown level and where you'd have to put your stop, like if I was to take 660 short, where would I have to give it to? I'd have to give it to 664, because that's where clearly the price top is, right? So that means by definition, I've got to give this a $4 space. So that has to factor into whether I get into the trade, and if I do, with how many shares. So keep that in mind here as this trade develops. But yeah, good move up for NVIDIA on the day, really with no new catalyst. It was essentially a catalyst from yesterday that they are taking pre-orders for their Chinese specific GPUs. They're looking to sell these specific GPUs to the Chinese market to kind of circumvent a little bit what the Biden administration has been doing with the chips embargo. So we'll have to wait and see how they do there. But they were quite reliant on the Chinese market before this embargo accounted for almost a third of their revenue prior to that. And then, Jensen Huang came out and said, don't worry too much about it. It's not going to affect us. Maybe because he had the back of his mind this entire time that he was going to be able to make new chips for them specifically and get around that hit to his revenue, because definitely was going to be a hit. So we'll have to wait and see what NVIDIA does. But right now, the market absolutely loving what NVIDIA has to offer. Guys, we were at $500 like a couple of weeks ago. We're almost at $700 now. We're short of $700 by $37. Unbelievable move for NVIDIA. An unbelievable move for AMD and all these other chips. So it's been crazy. Enjoy it while it lasts, because who knows how long it lasts for, guys. All right. AAPL coming right back into that 186 level again. Lo and behold, it has a 187 and a third top. It did tank there on that big move down on the futures, and it rejected that 187 and a third. It made its way all the way back down to 185. It is now on its way back to 186. This is a resistance level, though. Look at this trough here on AAPL, where we found support on Apple at 186. Do we find now resistance on Apple at 186? So does support flip and become resistance? Let's keep an eye and see what happens here. Maybe we can bamboozle a trade. Darwin, AWS will be, hit it, Katina, man. George Washington's in the club today. Short Meta again, Katina. Well, he's been short Meta. Did you reload? No, just covering more. He's covering more on Meta at that 480 short. We're 478, excuse me, and a third. Pardon me? 481.25 short on META for the Katina, man. He's just printing right now as it's down into 478 and a quarter. Shout out to Sean. Darwin, AWS will be the first cloud provider to bring NVIDIA GH20 Grace Hopper superchips with multi-node NVLink technology to the cloud. Really? And that's interesting, because we've been hearing a lot about AWS trying to come up with their own GPUs for their data centers to kind of save on margins there. So I'm kind of surprised to hear that, but yet not really surprised at the same time, because we know who's buying these NVIDIA chips. It's the hyperscalers. They're the only one that can afford $40,000 a pop en masse, right? So I am surprised, but I'm not. Maroon 05, Adara, Sharif, I think the market will go to 5,000 and the SPY to 500, and then there will be an imminent collapse. What do you guys think? I don't know. All I know is the future just tanked again. Below 17.7. The future's all over the place. Hit it, Katina, man. $5 in the money on Meta short. Amazon long, $3 in the money. $5 in the money on the Meta short. Hit it. And $5 in the money on the Microsoft long. He's killing it today. I'm having a hard time. He's killing it. So shout out to him. What was I going to say here with respect to, it was Maroon 5 saying, what do you guys think with respect to the SPY? Let's have a look at the ES. Why not? We haven't looked at the ES for quite some time here. It's kind of hard to guess what the ES is going to do because, well, it's a blue sky setup here on the S&P 500. So let's get rid of the pivots so we can kind of see this a little bit better. Apply OK. Let's remove all the commentaries. Yeah, you know what? The thing is with Maroon 5, like, we haven't really shown anything diverging here. I haven't looked at the RSI, okay? So I haven't looked at relative strength to see if there's divergence with respect to price action. I haven't looked at the MACD or anything like that to see. But based on the price action alone, you're not seeing the declining volume. You're not seeing the red days outshine the green days. It's kind of quite the opposite. You're getting large gaps. Like, look at this gap over here on the ES out of the breaking of the zone over here. So you're getting continual gaps to the high side, but not necessarily to the low side. So I don't feel like, the market's setting up for a retracement here, but anything's possible. You come into that 5,000 level, which we're awfully close to. 49.83.5 is the high day today on the S&P. So we're like 17 points off that 5,000. You come into that 5,000, you could hit psychological resistance, and the market could tank. You're absolutely right. Maybe it could come back into 4,900, another buying opportunity. But I don't see anything specifically here on the ES chart to show that we're going to tank off this level. But yeah, keep your eye on it.
Yeah, no, I think certainly, yeah, the markets have been so hard to predict. In general, like, you know, it's kind of, it's hard to predict, just kind of direct with what you see. And I think certainly this Tesla trade is an example of that. Oh my gosh. I got involved in this short because I liked how we were kind of rejecting off of that just shy of 185 area. I watched it a couple times. If we make a decisive new higher high here, I'm going to have to leave because I'm not going to lie and say I'm like, you know, I got in because I like the look, but I'm definitely cognizant of what we're doing here. But like looks like we might be giving up the go. Shout out to Sharif around that 185 level. I'm going to stay in this. I had to get out of run because we ran up above that 14 area, and like I said, that 14 was a deal breaker for me. If we run back down and there's more of an opportunity, I'd be tempted to get back in, but I want to see a little bit more confluence for that. Shout out as always to Obi. Also, I did take another IWM trade. I got involved, like I mentioned this one earlier, I wanted to get a little bit more. I wish I could have added at VWAP, but the spread was just too spready. I could not get my foot in the door there. Then I was waiting. I wanted to see that VWAP bounce. We bounced off VWAP. I was cool with that. I added a little bit, and then we had this nice move here. So I was pretty happy with this, just kind of taking out, taking out the pieces as we went. And I really like where I got out. I got out, again, this is a lot of scalpulation, which when I say scalpulation, I mean like when we're holding, when I'm watching the book and I see where we're holding or struggling with certain levels, and I use that to help alter my trades. It's really like I have a plan going into it, but sometimes for the outs or for where you want to add, in addition to the general plan, it's like if you have like a blank, like a sketch, and then scalpulating is like filling in the color with paint. That's what I would call it. It's the idea of having a plan and then being willing to tinker with the plan mildly if needed and as needed. Also, Jonathan Greenwald saying Meta looks like it's bleeding out. That is not Meta, that is MRYS, which is not a stock. And it's also in the NQ. So let's look at Meta. Yeah, Meta here. Yeah, Meta's certainly struggling. We did fall off that 480 with the viciousness. We did have some consolidation around this area earlier, so we'll have to see if we can come back into that. In the meantime, I'm going to have to get out of Tesla. Oh, my Lord. This one, yeah, no, this is just going to have to be a no for me. Shout out to, I sound like I'm Randy Jackson on American Idol. Yeah, we got out here, and then, of course, we flushed again right after we got out. But, yeah, I just should have planned my stop or my out better on this one. Again, just these shorts on Tesla, I feel like I'm going to have to stay away from because we're driving the Cybertruck up a hill, and I'm clearly, like, you know, driving against the force here. But, yeah, I mean, weirdly enough, IWM has been the most successful name of the day. We had some nice trades earlier in Tesla, but it doesn't matter if I just, you know, maybe these positions were too large, just the shorts were not working, but certainly just because you have a couple good trades in one name doesn't mean it's going to stay solid. Being ready for what the market hits you, and trying to roll with the punches. Patrick Langlois asking, when do you plan to get off the sim? So it's about consistency. It's not, you know what I mean? Like I have to, you know, prove a certain amount of consistency. And honestly, I will say consistency's been the hardest part. This week has been one of my better weeks. But I'm going to be really honest. It's really just about being in a way that we're moving in a way that's consistent. And yeah, and right now that's just not really been happening. I also do like what Rage TV has to say here. Tesla's to be in and out trade, it moves like a penny stock. I agree, and I think that's why these trades earlier were more successful, whereas these ones weren't. It's like I was saying, trading in ranges. I don't know why I'm trying to predict the bottom on these moves when I am a range trader. I have a little bit more I'm a little bit happier with my initial entry on this one because we kept rejecting off that level. But this second trade, I really have no excuse for. And I do agree about the in and out trading, and I'm a little bit disappointed in myself, but you know what I mean? You keep brushing off your shoulders and keep running. K-Fry saying you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Michael Scott, which is an Office reference there when Michael Scott quotes Wayne Gretzky in his Office as he said it. So great times there. Yes, and then also to you know what I mean? Like, congrats to everybody who has some good trades here. The market has been in a mood, and you know what I mean? Sean with those Dollar Club winners. Yeah, George Washington is into club, but he's making more than 50 cents there. So I have to point that one out there. Yeah, congrats to Sean. Awesome. And also, you know, like a speech bubble there. Yeah, I have to say, looking at this Tesla chart and where I got out here is a skosh sad. But it is what it is. We're going to keep moving. Brush that dirt off the shoulder. Shout out to Jay-Z and find some more trades. Also run this short. I'm happy I took out some profit where I did because this short ended up not working. We really weirdly ran to the high side. I think that's proof that sometimes technical indicators can set up, things can sit up, and things will work against you. we
just wanna
had
point
this.
out some
Yeah,
stuff here.
please do.
So there's a couple of the small cap gappers that we mentioned today. ARTA coming into VWAP, so this one putting in a bunch of lower highs, but it is holding up at that 1.25. So keep your eye on this one because this could be an interesting entry opportunity. On ATRA, I said ARTA, ATRA, and then this one INBS. So this is kind of doing that VWAP hold high of daybreak, kind of maybe possible on this bad boy. Made that big move up, and then it kind of dances with VWAP the entire day. The strategy with this is to build up your position at VWAP or near VWAP, and then wait for the more liquid time of the day, that 2:30, 3 o'clock comes in, and then it does typically test high of day at that time. 559 right now is HOD. So if you can make its way up a little past that on the break of the high, that would be interesting. But the whole point, to kind of try to get in around 483, 460s, in and around this area to build your position up at VWAP. Keep your eye, though, on the lows because that should be your line in the sand. If it fails VWAP and it doesn't end up manifesting the pattern of the VWAP hold high at daybreak, you got to cut it. You got to cut it quickly, especially if you're going to take this with size. So figure out exactly where your support level is, your line in the sand, which you won't allow it to go below, and then get on that bad boy. But I like ATRA possibly and INBS as two possible candidates for that VWAP hold high of daybreak kind of pattern. So looking at those two, minim is exactly what you don't want in that VWAP hold high of daybreak. It kind of gives up the ghost absolutely at that level. But the good thing about MINM, it's a multi-day runner and it is holding up above that $6 area. So good look for minim on the day. We'll have to see what it does as the day goes on. I'm in a futures position again, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the 17.7. It seems to be bouncing off 17.7, so we're looking for that defend of the level and a possible move back up. But packing our patience, we're going to have to pack our patience today because it's been tough. Let's flip back now to the mega cap screen and see what everything is up to. Yeah, so we're getting a nice move up, looks like here on, wow, Google's waking up a little bit. Okay. Tesla is the strongest looking pattern, like I want to say in the past half an hour to an hour. Because at 1 o'clock, Tesla absolutely started pumping to the high side, and you didn't really see that manifest anywhere else. In fact, it was kind of the opposite. You saw things really start to turn back around. Off that 182 bottom, it did pop up into 185.75. It's at 185 right now. We'll see if this one can get going, but it did put in a topping tail candle. You don't want to put too much stock into one candle, but yeah, that one is maybe a little bit of a clue as to what Tesla's going to do from here on in. It is coming into that key resistance level, which is the first support level on pivots. So it's flips from support into resistance in this particular case. We'll have to see whether or not it can continue to the high side of Dara.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I got into that long right before you mentioned that, so it's a little dicey here. Should have just stayed out of this one, but I did like how we were kind of holding it, bouncing off that 185.20, so I got involved there. We're not holding this very well. If we break below this 148.80 decisively, I'm going to have to say no, but I took a really small position just trying to kind of get into trades that trying to see and getting a little bit more cognizant of the movement. But the thing is, too, is again, I'm just kind of kicking myself because this isn't really a range trade, so I don't really know what was happening there. But you know what? Just focusing on what's happening here and just trying to grow and just trying to learn. And I think that's what hopefully matters. I think the thing is sometimes you learn more from the mistakes you make than the things that go well. And certainly some mistakes, maybe this wasn't learning. Maybe I just should have been avoiding this name entirely. But I liked the pattern here, and I have a plan, and so we're going to try sticking with that. Also, I want to, Jeeb1000 asking a really cool question here. Could you guys talk a bit about bid-ask spread? I'm struggling with that on Robinhood, especially for these short-term trades you guys do. Do you factor that in, or do you only trade it if the spread is small? As someone who trades like Eli Lilly, I definitely am not afraid of a larger spread, right? Yeah. I think the thing is, too, is I've said this before, sometimes where I like to play my point of entry, if there's a larger spread, it's kind of in between in the bid and the ask. That could be a little bit dicey. I'm not saying like 100%, but I think sometimes I find you have a little bit better of a shot of entry. So I'm not trading Eli Lilly today because I'm pretty sure the volume is here, but we'll look at it just to look at the spread on this guy. Yeah, so the spread of this one right now is about 40 cents. Also, I kind of like this look. But basically, right, so it's the 40 cents. So maybe, like, let's say I want to get in, I would maybe plan my entry at that 668.90 or something, right? Because I find it's really hard to get filled in something like Eli Lilly if you try to get in at the lower range, because you do have to worry about the top, you have to worry about the ask, right? And so I think I would say my advice to you, I don't know how Robinhood works specifically, but I would say I'm really cognizant of the spread if it's larger, and I try to sometimes get in between. Also to keep an eye on the spread, this is something Sharif and I have talked about. Sometimes for your exits, it really matters, especially if you're going to be trading a mega cap, because some of those, specifically Meta, sometimes can have a larger spread.
Exactly.
What I've started doing is I'll get in a couple pennies below where I want to, or I'll put my point of exit a couple pennies below where I actually want to get out. So let's say I want to get out of Meta 300, I'll get out at like, well, Meta 300, what am I saying there? Meta's not been at 300 for days. Let's say it was Meta like 4, I don't know, where are we at right now? Yeah, they know what I mean.
Right.
But then I'll be like, oh, like a couple pennies below that, because then I have a better chance of getting filled, especially because with these psychological whole dollar levels. If you want to get at a whole dollar level, that's where it would be like, I'd be really cognizant, because those levels can be a huge psychological level. That was something Obi and I were talking about with NVIDIA at that 535, 540, which again feels like a fever dream now that NVIDIA was dancing with 666.
And one thing that you need to know if you want to spread trade too is that you can set an offset. So your limit order, you can set a certain amount that you will allow it to extend past your limit order. What do I mean by that? So for example, so say I'm trading these small cap gappers, right? And they have a spread of 5 pennies, or even Meta, like doesn't even have to be a small cap gapper. And I want to use limit orders because I need to protect my my entries and my exits. I don't want to be subject to market orders because obviously presents certain problems. I can add a certain amount of offset to my limit orders. I can say, look, buy and sell up to 5 pennies north and south of my limit order. So that is another way that you can help protect against the problems of wider spreads. You can say, okay, look, if it comes in and around this level, plus or minus, you fill. And so you're telling the computer that it's okay, even though it is a limit order, it can give itself a little bit of room. So you don't actually have to use market orders in those cases, because market orders, there's a whole other issue of problems with them. So make sure that you know exactly what your platform allows you to use and what you can actually program in there. So make sure to look at that offset. I can show you how to do it on this platform, but it's not going to help you much, because unless you're a real trading customer, well, then you're not going to have access to Pre-Pro 8. Anyway, so make sure, hit it, Katina, man. Make sure to understand the difference between the offsets on limits and markets and market orders in general. So I just want to put that out there. The other thing is, yeah, we're seeing what we can do here on the future. Nicely in the money on this one. I already took a couple of beak wetters into the 17,720. We'll see if this one can actually hold up above 17. It's been very choppy at this 17.7 level. We'll see. It's putting in lower highs right now, but at the same time, it's putting in higher lows. So it's a bit of a compression pattern at the moment on the future. We're above 186 on Apple. We're approaching 186 here on Tesla. Amazon has been kind of giving up the ghost off that top, off that 172.5 top. It's coming down a little bit now into that 171 2/3. Softies right at that 411 level, so we'll keep an eye on that as well with a 412.25 high. No point even talking about Google. It's been dead money on the day, the entire day. But NVIDIA has been kind of the short of the afternoon. That 666's short has really presented you with a nice opportunity. It's now back into 659, was just at the 658 area low there. Trying to find some support, I guess, right now on NVDA, but it looks like Tesla, like I mentioned, from 1 o'clock onwards, say not even 1 o'clock, say 12:40 onwards, Tesla has been the best looking of the Mag 7 names. For the longs, that is, it has been pumping to the high side. It is $4, sorry, almost $4 at that bottom, 182 low. It's on its way possibly into 186. We'll have to see how it does. I haven't put any other beak wetters on this futures trade, so I'm going to send it to Adara so I can do that at the moment.
Yes, the beak will be dipped.
Hopefully.
And we will be hopefully pleased as punch.
Hopefully.
And it will be, yeah, I thought we were still an Apple. I was going to say it's an Apple punch, but it's the NQ. So it will have a little bit of Tesla in that punch as well. There'll be a little bit of NVIDIA. But yeah, nice, good look there on that trade. Also, thank you so much to the Opland Group, Redwood Realty. Props to you guys for being able to watch and trade the market while carrying on the show. My first time watching, but the live daily show, and we'll be tuning in going forward. Thank you so much for the support. I mean, it's a lot of fun to do. I really enjoy doing it. And I think, you know, like I said, really just trying to learn every single day and every single trade. And I think too, like this market, I know you were saying yesterday, a little bit consolidative, a bit harder for you to trade. I'm having the same problem, but in reverse, because I'm a little bit trendier, or not trendier, I'm not that. I'm rangier. Thank you. I appreciate it. I said that and I was like, that is not right. But even like, so for example, the stuff that we had with Tesla earlier where I could just get in and out of these levels, that's my bag. That's the stuff I feel, I'm not saying I'm great, but I feel more comfortable with it, right? Like I was happy knowing that we had that previous rejection, that 183.40, reloading the short there and getting out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think this is a bit more where I'm comfortable. And so me dancing with the devil here with Tesla earlier, I don't know why I was obsessed, love, with trying to get a trade on this later because it just was not happening. But I am proud of this last long we took. I got involved at that 185.20 because we were consolidating for a little bit. And then I got out there, pretty small position. I got it out around that 185.60. And this is where the scalpulation comes in. I like looking at where we see that chop and turn. And that's where I was noticing a little bit of it earlier during Tesla Shortgate, which is what I'll be calling that. But yeah, so that's kind of where I got out there. That was really the look there. And you know, again, like I think sometimes my solution when I have a bit of a rougher trade, cough, cough, Tesla Gate, is, as Obi says, where's the next trade?
Absolutely.
And that's what I had to do there. And at first I was kicking myself because I was like, Dara, why would you get back in this name? It burned you before. And I was like, but that's the past. You know what I like? If I like the setup now and I have a better confirmation for this setup, which would be that range there and that push up and this rounded bottom, why not get in? And so I think that was my impetus for that. And again, just really trying to learn and feel very grateful to be able to talk through here every day. Also, yeah, someone asking here how long have I been trading? I'm still in the sim, but I'm pretty new. I got in, I started mid-September. Second day ever trading was actually on this show, but for now, we have a futures trade to celebrate.
Yes. Well, we're not going to celebrate too hard, Dara, because we've been getting rinsed all day. So very negative on the day, just putting it out there, very negative. So trying to make a little bit back here as we move up on the future. We're like 27, 28 points in the money. We'll see if this one can hold 17.7. If not, well, we'll just take the break-even trade back through the break there. So keeping an eye on that. I was going to mention something that I did forget. It slipped my mind. I had something important to mention, but that's all right. It'll come back to me. What are you guys looking at today? What are you guys looking at right now? I know people are yelling about Tesla because they're excited that it's popping up. And yeah, I couldn't be more excited for you guys. I would have been a bit more excited if it had dipped into 180 and I would have got long on my personal account. I've had that bad boy set up since it touched 180. I figured, you know, we probably might get a double bottom and it'd be a reversal pattern and I'd print $100 a share. Right? So I'm kidding, of course. But the idea is I had that order ready, and sadly it didn't fill because we only have a 182 low on the day. But as we're watching Tesla now, here comes 187. So 186. So $4 removed off that low. And you saw Dara show you this range trade. And I think it was a bang up range trade that you had. You had the initial pop into VWAP reject, another pop into VWAP reject, and then you had another one. And then on the fourth time, finally it broke. So you could have range traded this real well and given yourself maybe $1.50 above VWAP for your risk, and you would have printed on this because this little hit you taken over here would not have accounted to the money that you would have made over here, assuming that you would have kept your losses obviously a little bit smaller. Obviously smaller than your winners. So we'll have to see what Tesla does at the moment. Also, I want to mention that NVIDIA does seem to be doing that wick shimmy dance with 660. Look at all these prints here, these wicks below 660, all of them being bought up aggressively, and each subsequent candle making a higher low and a higher high. So this looks like the buyers are coming in here right now on NVDA, at least for the moment. We'll see if it can continue to pump up, maybe to break through the 664 high. But yeah, the dips into that 660 level seem to be bought up at the moment. And there we go. We got that fill through the break of 17,730 on the future. And as soon as it did that, it tanked 20 points. So now we're back into that 17.7 mid-teens. Do we hold up? I have no idea. But if it comes into my entry at 98s, I'm going to end this trade. But we're already de-risked quite nicely here on the move up. We're going to leave the remaining amount either to get stopped out or to run at least into the 50-point area. We'll have to wait and see what we got. We got about 12 minutes left on the show. What are you guys looking at? Mira says, Intel bouncing back up. Do you think it'll rally till dividends? Look, I don't even think Intel is a bad story today. I mean, all that they said was they're putting a bit of a hold on the manufacture of their Ohio foundry. It's now a 2026 completion date. I don't even know when the previous completion date was. I'm assuming probably 2025 or something like that. But look, this is a long-term project for Intel. So whether it's delayed a year or 6 months, they're building 3 foundries at the moment, 2 in North America and 1 in Europe. They are fundamentally changing how they do business. So if you're going to get in Intel, you got to pack your patience. And I know we say that a lot, but you really have to, because it's a long-term story here as they look to change their business model entirely from a chip designer to chip manufacturer and take on Taiwan Semi. If you're going to get in this name, you definitely need to do a little bit of global geopolitic research, because the reason there's all this money going into Intel at the moment is because, you know, America wants to de-risk away from Asia. Taiwan Semiconductor obviously is the largest chip manufacturer in the world, but it's like a few hundred kilometers from the shore of China. And they don't like that. So there's that reshoring aspect of things, French shoring, reshoring, onshoring, whatever kind of shoring you want to call it. The point is, Intel is a long-term story, so you're going to have to pack your patience. It's not going to just be about, oh, it pops up on dividend. It's going to be like years before you really see this bad boy materialize. Maybe it's earlier. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you print earlier than that. But I see it as a multi-year story. Neil, how do you feel? Do you see it as a multi-year story? He absolutely sees it as a multi-year story. Adair.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, that's really interesting. I know you guys were talking about this earlier today too, with regards to Intel. And
oh, hello.
hi. We had like a brief, you know, we went to another dimension, came back, nice trip. But yeah, no, I think I think that, yeah, it's really interesting as well. And I think certainly Intel does seem to be affected a little bit differently than these AMDs and NVIDIAs. Like Lisa Su and Jensen Huang are partying it up there.
Oh yeah.
The cousins. Good times for them. Whereas I feel like, you know, some of these other names, I know Micron, I know Sean's been in and out of Micron
TSM's
like a
making
maniac.
the majority of their GPUs for AMD and
That's
NVIDIA, by the way.
That's
yeah.
interesting too, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Micron a little bit choppier and shortier. There's certainly some ranges, some fun to be had there. And I mean, congrats to Sean for killing those Micron trades.
Yes,
but yeah, I think to me, like, the main story for these chips does seem to be AMD and NVIDIA. But I do think, you know, speak trade-wise, Meta rejecting EMA is so tempting. But I don't want to get involved yet because I want, you know, I'm a little bit cautious here. But as Sean says, a scared trader is a deficient trader. I've been watching the book. I've been watching how we dance with this 478.50, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we were bouncing off this thing all the way up, and we've been rejecting off it all the way down. Like, Adara, we might have to take this just until the end of the midday, because it's a pretty good look.
While you're talking, that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm like hypnotized. Biggie, or meta, can't you see? Sometimes the levels hypnotize me.
There you go.
Not a great one, but we tried. Also, I have a question for you. This was something I was randomly thinking about.
I got excited, sorry.
Last night, thank you, I appreciate that. So you know, like the Dollar Club winner, how do you say that with the future? Is it like a 100-point winner? How do you?
That's
what's
what
the
we never
equivalent?
hit the Dollar Club when we're in the future.
I
right?
was curious,
because
if there's
I don't know, the 10-point club, the 100-point, the 50-point club. I don't know. We have to standardize the future club.
That's what I was
I
thinking.
have no idea. Yeah, good point. Yes. What is there being talked about in the chat? As I don't have anything to discuss other than this futures trade, which continues to be above 17.7, but really not popping off in that big boy direction like it was earlier. This was the big boy Huadunk that we still don't really understand. It was probably a lot of profit taking because it was such a big move up on the futures. So you could probably assume that, yeah, especially since it got bought up too, right? So this is the 17, where did we get up to? 17,756, almost 17,760. and then we tanked almost 100 points in the matter of 3 or 4 minutes here, but we got bought back up, and we have been straddling 17.7 from the upside, not the downside. So the bounces have been bouncing off 17.7 to the north side, not rejecting off 17.7 and coming back down. That is a fundamental difference. You have to be attuned to that if you're going to trade the futures, about what side of the resistance or support it's at, and bouncing off or rejecting off of. And I jokingly call that the wick shimmy dance. If you've been watching the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah. I know that the wick shimmy dance is the big dance we do up here on these desks. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, let's talk a little bit about these small cappers because we have about 6 minutes left on the show. I am watching INBS for a VWAP hold high of daybreak. Again, if you don't know what this trade is, it is basically a small cap gapper that moves up aggressively, then straddles VWAP for the majority of the afternoon. The idea here is to try to buy and get your price in and around the average price of VWAP. Right now it's at 4 3/4. The idea here is that it holds VWAP, and then in the more liquid time of day, say around 2:33, it does attempt to try to break the high of day, or at least make its way up to it, and then maybe reject. High day right now on INBS, $5.59. I think it's a good candidate for that. The other one that's possibly a good candidate, but I think less so, is ATRA, owing to that V-shaped retracement. That's not what you want to see. You want to see it, you know, kind of where VWAP is not near the high of day, but not as far away as this one is. So we'll have to wait and see whether this one's a candidate, but I'm watching ATRA and INBS for possible VWAP hold high of day breaks if they do materialize, other than this futures trade that I currently have on. Make sure to join us next week, though, as we're going to have a new topic. We will let you know exactly what we're doing Monday morning, baby.
Yeah, very exciting times. We love coming up with the topics. We love looking them up. And I will, you know, ask questions and learn something. And thank you so much, Sharif, for being patient with me as I ask on my learning journey. But also, you know what I think is really cool? I want to say is I think it's really neat that you... because the futures trade very differently, the small caps trade very differently, the mega caps trade very differently, and you could trade all of them. And I just want to say I have a lot of respect for that.
I'm equally bad at all of them.
No, yeah. But what I mean is you know how to read them.
I'm equally bad at trading all of them. I like to trade all of them, but I'm bad at all three, so it's all good there. I want to read something that Dan the Man Emmons wrote in the chat because it kind of reflects how I feel on the day. Not in January, as he says, but this is how I felt yesterday and today. I found today incredibly challenging. I found this entire week challenging, even more so than January. My focus is on taking good setups, sharpening my process, and bankroll management. If you can survive these markets with 1 or 3K accounts, you can survive any environment. I do think that that is wise words. Thank you for sharing that, Dan. I think a lot of newer traders will benefit from that wisdom, and yeah, keep putting that wisdom in there because I think it brings real value to the show. Thank you for putting that in there. Any questions or comment or anything you want to close on with, Adair?
Yeah, I mean, the meta short, and I think this is what, you know, we were talking about, Sean saying a scared trader is a deficient trader. Earlier in the week, I think I weirdly kind of took that whole ethos as like, get into a trade. No, like Adara, don't take AMD long ahead of earnings when it's down on the day. Don't do that, right? Shout out to what I did on Tuesday. But here with this meta trade, we did have that EMA, 9 EMA rejection, which is the same as we had seen earlier. And we were down on the day. I mean, we're up on the day, but we're in a downtrend. Meta, I did not mean to offend you. You're still up 21%. I apologize. But, you know, I took out some profit here at that 478 area just because I was looking at where we had a little bit of a little bit of support earlier. But yeah, like, pretty happy with this trade. And I think, you know, I'm definitely learning every day. There have been some rough trades today. Shout out to half the Tesla shorts. Actually, all the Tesla shorts. Only the long was really working there. But basically, I mean, what I want, or I guess now the Tesla's shorting, but that's not the point. What I want to say is I think what I'm really trying to do is trust my instincts. And I think you trust your instincts sometimes by falling, knowing why you fell, knowing why you failed, and getting back up. There was really no impetus for me to get back into some of those Tesla shorts, but there was an impetus for the short, and that's why I wanted to get involved.
Have you ever heard the expression, you either win or learn?
I do like that saying.
I love that lesson. I mean, I think it really puts an aggressive, optimistic twist on real life. Because let's be real, you win and lose, but do you learn from your losses? So you don't necessarily just win and learn, you win and lose, but I guess it's what you do with that loss that really kind of really has, I mean, whether you improve or not probably has a lot to do with how how you take those losses and how you absorb them. All right, I'm looking at the future and I'm having trouble talking because I'm trying to set up a beak wetter for that 35 touch here on the future. We're back into 17,730. We're putting in higher lows and higher highs right now on this micro uptrend we're getting on the NQ. We still haven't cleared this crest over here at 17,740, so we could certainly encounter resistance from here up 10 points, and looks like we're doing that right now. We're not able to take that level at the moment. Keep your eye on the future. I think it'll have a lot to do with what these Mag 7 names do into the closing. We got 2 minutes left on the show, then we send you up to Brendo, and the big kahunas take over. Sean will be talking about Meta. He'll be talking about Softy. He'll be talking about, what else did he have there? Yeah, Amazon, I think. Neil, what have you been trading, my man? The Neil has been trading Affirm, Snap, and Rivian. He doesn't like when I call him the Neil, but it's all good. So make sure to check out what Neil has to say as well. Say again? I'm a person. He's a person, dang it. It's all in good fun. Shout out to Patrick Langlois, Nico Corrado. I'm sorry I butchered your name. Mira, Deuce Ford, Ponzi Fonzie, Mr. Long Shorts, and Synth Pop Boy in the chat.
Nice.
I just wanted to shout out some random people.
I like that. I like the shout outs. And yeah, I mean, what a day it has been. What a market it has been. What a week it has been. Major earnings week. 5 out of the 7 Mag 7 saying hello.
Hola.
Yeah, hola from them. And also Jim Cramer's new Mag 7 member, Lily, reporting next week. But
hola, like and subscribe today.
So I think we should probably do this. It is Kat's last day. And I'm a big fan of homeostasis. I don't like when things change. So needless to say, I'm very disappointed that Kat is leaving, but she is making big moves, and we could not be happier for her. Katrine, last day today. We're going to miss Kat. There she is. There she is. I'm sure the chat's going to miss you guys as well. Yep, look at that. You got people crying in the chat, Kat. They're displeased. Adair, it's 2 o'clock.
yeah, no, I mean, we will miss you, Kat. What a day. Thank you guys, everyone, for your support. We'll see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel. But right now, it is Brendan, and he is at the big desk.
I'm back.
Hey, guys. Yeah, 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Let's get into final 2 hours of the week. That has been a pretty crazy one with earnings and the Fed right in the middle of everything.